regular Cardston Town Council meeting, and we will have a call to order with an acknowledgement. The town of Cardston acknowledges that we are located on traditional Blackfoot territory. We note that Councillor Jensen is at a conference for CSS and is not with us and not able to be on Zoom. We have an agenda that needs to be adopted, but give me a second. We need to approve an addition. Under 5H, we will have the agricultural contract, and so that needs to be approved first. So I need a motion to approve that. Councillor Burton? To approve the addition under 5H, the agricultural contract. All in favor? Thank you. Now we can entertain a motion to. Councillor Brown?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented with the changes for this day, the 12th day of November, 2024.
All in favor? Thank you very much. I want to recognize Channel 32, we're back. McCarthy, thank you very much. And we have our 5 o'clock delegation right here. So Melody Woods, if you'd like to come to the lectern, we will be glad to see you.
Okay.
Can you come to the lectern?
Both of us, yes.
Well, you can both come, or whichever.
Well, I'll start. Sorry.
Okay, all right. So if you don't mind presenting yourself and.
So I've never done this before.
Your name?
My name is Nick Preston. I've got a few clients here on Town Council. Some of you have never met me before. I'm one of the few you might refer to in community as the crazy cat lady. I have always had a loud voice for the voiceless, and that fire within me to protect animals keeps getting stronger. There may only be stray cats and a nuisance to some, but humans have failed them, and they have been allowed to roam the streets, have offspring, and turn feral. Let me be clear, this is not of their doing. Summer schedules and the hiring of a new animal control officer were delaying progress for potential meetings with Constable Stanley to discuss a mass clinic if Canadian Animal Task Force was not hired. We were ready and eager to move forward with our own mass clinic if this were to happen, as some members of council were hopeful we could help on a much greater scale than we have been able to with our funds in the last couple of years. With very limited communication with Constable Stanley between August and October, he informed me that Canadian Animal Task Force was not hired, we would also not be considered, and that cats would now be actively trapped and rehomed. We were disheartened, to say the least. We had multiple conversations with Dr. Merkley, and he was fully prepared to help the stray cats in the community with the help of numerous volunteers in Cardston and other Southern Alberta rescue groups on board that, like, rescues that we affiliate with. Our colony cats are well cared for, vetted, and loved by our caretakers. They do not roam because of this. We worry that they may be rehomed. We do want to clarify what rehomed means, if that's rehomed properly or relocated. We would be devastated if any of our colony cats were relocated. Questions that we have would be, does this rehoming include any cat, friendly or feral? And what protocol would be used to ensure cats were being adopted into suitable homes or barns? And that proper steps were to be taken by farmers to acclimate new cats to a barn for at least a month. Will there actually be documentation done for adoptions? We are delighted to see that Mr. Murasco is willingly taking cats found by citizens. This is imperative to our work, as it reduces the amount of friendly cats who would turn feral and pregnant otherwise. We are hopeful friendly cats are being sent to rescue. We would also like to discuss options for a holding facility for recuperation and a rescue wait list. The pound was offered to Melody, however, after reviewing the contract, it was deemed a contract of adhesion by two lawyers, as she was advised not to sign it. She has been unsure on how to address some of the issues with the contract and is willing to discuss any changes that could be made. We do know of a property being listed for $55,000 that could be an adequate facility. I've been speaking to Dr. Merkley regarding a local SNAP program where low-income individuals could access more affordable spay and neutering, likely reducing the amount of animals being abandoned on the streets of Cardston. For example, the Finch Creek SPCA has a program where female cats are $125 to spay and males are $75. This is also a program that can be offered to locals in town or farms, and as many people are abandoning rurally. If the town were willing to donate $5 per pet license fee, this could help a program like this flourish. Here's the dead horse, beating the dead horse. Blood Tribe and the town of Cardston and Cardston County need to make attempts at some communication regarding the shelter. I've said it many times and I'll say it again, you cannot have a reservation bordering a town and not have an animal shelter. Having to request help from out-of-town rescues to take Cardston animals in is an old practice that needs to be abolished. We all need to make a conscious effort to make this a priority for this town and the animals who are being abandoned by irresponsible people. Town Rescue and other rescues are continuously accepting animals, not only by our request, but by other community members. Their funds are depleted, and it just isn't fair to the animals in their own communities that can't get the help because Cardston animals have taken their spots. We do hope that you reconsider Cardston Limited Paws assistance and not rehome cats to inadequate homes or relocate them into unknown territory. Fiscally, this is non-beneficial to the town or the cats. They will be killed by predators or landowners. And if we are not asked for assistance, will we still be getting the $2,500 funding? That's about it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Questions?
Yeah.
I wasn't clear. Were you saying, I'm trying to get my terms right, so if we have a cat that's trapped in Cardston, however it gets there, were you saying that it is a good idea if somebody in the county takes it, or it's not a good idea? I didn't understand that.
What do you mean the county?
Farmers. You were talking about, you said when we have the reserve next to us in the county, I just wasn't clear.
What I'm saying is like there's three entities in one small location. You have people from the rural community, you have people from the reserve that are known to abandon animals. It's just a known fact. That's the way it is. And whether it's...
What do you think is the right solution to that?
We need a facility here, period. Like it's long overdue.
So do you support, for example, in the county, we took probably about 15 cats.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's a good idea or a bad idea?
You took, as in you did what with them?
We knew of someone who didn't want them, and so we brought them to our home.
Okay.
And fed them and took care of them.
Okay.
Do you think that's a good thing or bad thing? That's why I wasn't catching.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
As long as you're fixing them and you're taking care of them.
Like they were our cats.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why it's not clear.
Yeah.
Because that worked really well for us. We needed cats.
It's the spaying and neutering that needs to be mandatory. Like people have to, there's no excuse to not fix your cat or your dog.
Yeah, I think that clarifies it. Thank you.
Mr. Grainger?
So, when you say we need a facility, and I think you're identifying the three levels of government, the county, the town, and the First Nation. So in your perfect world, those three levels of government would get together and co-sponsor and staff and build what you would consider to be a proper, larger facility for our area. Do I have that right?
In a perfect world, right now, First Nations communities are in major crisis, and they're creating a lot of crisis in the rescue world. There's no adoptions. Rescues are just, they're drowning.
Yeah, I'm asking.
So I'm trying to get to that. A reservation is its own entity. It's hard to get in there, and you have to have a really good relationship with council, and that's a hard one. And just to have a facility of some kind, whether it's between the county and the town, somehow.
So what I'm trying to get at is that, because you've identified those. And what I'm trying to get at is you've identified the 3 levels of government. And I believe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you and I have spoken in the past. From what you're saying is that you do not believe that our facility and what we're doing is adequate for the needs of the cats and dogs, correct?
It's not that it's inadequate. Right now, from what I noticed driving by when I'm in town, the dogs that have been there for quite a while, since the summer. And the cats, really with barking and stuff, shelters have cats and dogs home together, but really keeping cats in little kennels is not, and barking dogs is not.
Sorry, what I'm trying to, I want you to clarify for
Yes.
me that what is your ask, and I believe what I hear you saying is a new,
Yes.
larger, adequately staffed, run animal shelter facility that would be sponsored by those 3 levels of government. Is that your ask?
Yes, or the pound facility added on to, which I've spoken, well, not to council before, but to individual councillors.
That's why I said in a perfect world, but I believe your view is that what we're doing is inadequate and we need to do something more or better, correct?
It's not inadequate. The amount, the numbers, like the rescues that are coming down to take in puppies that are left on the streets or kittens or whatever. Like the pound is not equipped to take in that many.
So it's inadequate.
Well, yeah, but not like in a horrible way.
No, I don't mean that. I mean that in a perfect world, if money was no object, you would like to see us do something bigger and better in your view.
Pincher Creek SPCA is a good model.
Thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you to you and Melanie for all the hours that you put in for the animals in Cardston. We appreciate that. We love volunteers, and we know you clearly don't get paid to do this, so we appreciate your time. The part in your pitch that I don't quite understand is, so as council, when we agreed to set aside the money that would go towards the spade and neutering, and that we would hire the Canadian, that group, and at that time, it was my understanding that we would take that money, do this, trap the cats, spade and neuter them, and then rehome them to safe places in our community. That was my understanding. And so then it came back to council that administration had worked with Dr. Ryan Merkley, and Dr. Merkley had said, look, I have a bunch of residents, I think they were called, that were here that would be willing to do it for cheaper and just as good. And so I thought, and correct me council if I'm wrong, that was the direction we were going. And I thought that was the ask at the time. I thought that was a good thing.
If the Canadian Animal Task Force wasn't going to be hired for whatever reason, that it was headed towards Melody and I, and Dr. Merkley doing it.
Yeah, so I didn't know to use that. definitely, we talked with administration. He had said that Dr. Merkley, who does this living, was really that. And then Jensen, correct me if I'm wrong, had brought up the fact of the rehoming and working with the county. And last I heard there were, I don't remember, 8 homes, places that were willing to take them or whatever. And I do know farmers that have taken them and are loving them and having them in their barns and killing mice and living their best lives. So I thought that is the best outcome. For me, I think the best outcome is for cats to be homed to an area where they're loved and taken care of, that's no longer the feral cat colony up on the East Hill. I thought that's what was best.
But they're cared for there as well. They're cared for at every colony we have. If you're snapping a cat, trapping a cat from, let's say, 7th Street West, and it's been there for 2 years, you fix it, and then, I don't know what the animal control officer is planning on doing, what paperwork he does, what justification makes one farmer better than the other, but you can't just open a kennel door and say, have a nice life. They need to be, like, in a barn, shut out or else they will take off trying to make it back to their colony.
Well, this is all in my presentation.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Annick. I'm looking at the time, and do we have our next delegation? Okay, so here's a little bit of an issue, a melody that we have. We have another delegation that is ready to go at 5:15 as per our agenda. Would it be possible for you to do your presentation at the future council? To carry on the conversation, or to do it after we have the presentation, our next presentation? Would you be okay with that? Okay, all right. If you're okay with that. So, I haven't seen Albert.
He's right back.
Albert, you're hidden by the lectern, so if you want to come forward, thank you.
Thank you, Council. We want to thank Paula for coming to the last Chamber of Commerce meeting. As all of you are aware, the Chamber of Commerce has been fairly rocky the last 8 or 9 years. I was asked to join the Chamber a little over a year ago, and we feel like we're making improvements for the better and trying to support our business community. We were advised by the Community Futures on the possibility of getting this grant to help with chambers and small business groups. We feel like we fit the criteria. There's only 2 things that I think we're within 100 kilometers of Lethbridge, but the government, the person I talked to said they'd probably allow that still to be applied for, because 9 kilometers we are is considered. So, but I'd just like to read to you a part of the rural Alberta government's Rural Alberta focus. It says, with the focus on Alberta's economic growth, it is more important than ever that rural communities are strong, vibrant, and inclusive places to call home. When rural communities succeed, all of Alberta is made stronger. However, areas of Alberta located away from major centres or with small populations have difficulty taking advantage of economic opportunities. They require a supportive economic development environment that enables the capacity building within their communities. So I went to a meeting in Pincher Creek a month ago on a new program Pincher Creek, the town of Pincher Creek and MD have adopted on environmental stewardship. And lots of bodies there that I remember associating with when I was on council for my 3 terms, and also talking about economic development. I was shocked that Southern Alberta, outside of Lethbridge, communities only have 1 economic development officer hired by councils. And so when I saw this grant and was told about this grant at that meeting, and talked to the government, I thought maybe there's a way that the chamber, as we're trying to revitalize our business community and rebuild the chamber to be a stronger voice, that we could use this grant to contract somebody to come in and focus on building our business community, helping with economic development that are good for us. It's not a regional grant, but they're good for Cardston. We've had our past chamber president has done a lot of work with the Blood Reserve, and there's a lot of opposition to her. She's currently resigned as president of the chamber. I feel unfortunate that she's resented as she is by the community, because it's not in her favor. I feel like she made great strides with our last concert with Neil, the Blood Tribe Council, and putting that concert on, and brought us united in a lot of ways. And so the chamber would like to continue with that vision. I don't know if we'll be doing concerts anymore, but the Ag Society showed an interest in those kind of events that they haven't had in the past. Outside of rodeo, that's been their event. But any event that brings people to Cardston boosts our business community. And there used to be numbers that floated around that for every dollar spent on an event, it's $10 to spend in the community. Whether it's housing, hotels, food, just stopping at local home hardware and buying something you really didn't need. But we feel like this grant would really benefit the community. It's a 10% grant, 90% grant, 10% contribution. We're willing as a chamber to pay $10,000. I've been talking with Paula. I mentioned you've got an economic development budget. Maybe there's some economic development initiatives that this person could do for the town to help contribute to that $10,000 grant application. The application can't be made by the chamber. It has to be made by the town on our behalf. And we would be more than willing to prepare the grant application for the town, and Jeff is being assigned to approve and send off. The deadline is coming up shortly for this next year. It's a 2-year program, 2-year grant program, and we'd like to apply for the maximum so we can retain that position for 2 years.
I have a question for you. It's regarding the eligibility of the grant.
Mm-hmm.
So you picked up on location, I picked that up too. But there is another point, and I don't know if you can help me see how you would fix that issue. So, in your emails back and forth to Jeff, there was a question regarding who would be the employee or that you would be using. And you wrote we would be using mostly chamber employees /
We assume that we're applying for the grant through the town. We would employ that person, whether it's a contract or on an employee basis.
Okay, so I don't really know how it fits with that criteria here. When it says under ineligible project costs, it says salary expenses for existing staff. So that makes your grant ineligible.
We don't have any existing staff.
Okay. So what exactly does that mean in your email? We would be using mostly chamber employees / contracts.
So we would use our employees that we've got, the board of directors, to make the application for the grant. Once the grant was approved, if it gets approved, then we would put a notice out.
So in your email, chamber employees are not what you meant.
Well, we don't have existing, so we might decide as a board, if there was the right person to be an employee rather than a contract, then we would make them an employee.
But if it's an employee, you cannot.
Yeah, ideally it'd be a contract. We're anticipating the person would work for 15 to 20 hours a week. It's not a full-time job. You employ somebody, so a contract basis is better.
So I really think we need to clarify that before we even go as a town to support the application, we need to understand that little nuance.
Yeah.
Because it's an important one, because it can throw your project out of the window in a matter of minutes or seconds.
So I just want to understand the 90-10 split. If I read it right and I listened to you correctly, the person would be hired, their salary and costs would be covered in a 90-10 split, where the grant covers 90% of it and the town covers 10. Is that correct?
Town or the chamber.
Chamber. Okay. So that was my question: is what are your members willing to throw in the kitty here?
We're willing to pay the 10,000. We feel like our community needs this. We've got businesses closing on Main
No, I
Street.
get all that. I understand. So your ask of us, because we can't apply for the application, is that we apply for the application on your behalf, and to pay the person that would get hired. The grant pays 90% of it. The 10% would be covered by your members. Is that what you're telling me?
That's what we're asking.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out what is the town other than sponsoring the grant application? What's your ask of the town?
Yeah, that's the ask.
Okay.
If we were approved for the grant and get the $100,000 maximum, we would anticipate that the town, through Paula or the economic development, may have initiatives that need support too. Like need somebody else other than a councillor or a board of directors to do all the work.
So thank you so much, Delbert. There's one more question I may have, because you mentioned community features as being the one who kind of led you to this grant.
Mm-hmm.
So in talking with one of their members, just not realizing that you had contact with them, I was told that what they're looking for right now is more of a regional ECDEV person, because exactly what you're saying, that there is no rep, there is no ECDEV officers in any of our towns in the south, and you are right to mention that there is a gap, there is a need. So I just was wondering, did they share that vision with you? It was.
So Sasha is who I talked to. She's with the Kronen past Community Futures. She's now running the Southwest Community Futures because they're 20
Right.
offers
Yes,
retired.
yeah, I know the story.
So she just mentioned the grant, not on behalf of Community Futures, on behalf of the Chamber of Finance.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that.
So what I can say is, I think it was a year ago, I went to the Economic Growth and Development meeting in Fort McLeod, and it was a day conference, and it was all of us councillors from the surrounding municipalities that had the portfolio of ECDEV, and so which is why I went representing the town. And I, like Delbert, was surprised at how many didn't have ECDEV, and so I did come back after that time, and because it was discussed at that table, what if communities got together, like Claire's Home in Cardston, got one together, but it was after it was talked at the roundtable at that conference, they said they had seen it done before, but that it didn't work, because how do you represent, when you're getting a grant, both municipalities want it, so who are you representing? And so they said it was better to work together with one within your community. So that's why
Okay.
And I there's eligible people out there. There's kids graduating from university with economic development degrees that can't find work.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an opportunity to have somebody for 2 years.
Okay, thank you so much.
the one thing that's different from our meeting, it was my understanding of the meeting, your request was you wanted the town to pay the $10,000.
Ultimately, we would.
Okay.
But that's the hinging point on the
Because this is
5%.
changing. Now you're saying that y'all have money in the bank and you've got money to put towards it, whereas you weren't saying that in the meeting that I was at. So now you're saying, so is the pitch you're asking for the $10,000?
We're asking council to
Put it as much.
decide if the value of an economic development person in Cardston is worth $10,000 for 2 years.
that's why I want to clarify what the ask is. So
That is the ask.
I'll ask you,
But if the town says, I'm not going to fight the grant, we're only going to get $10,000, then we still have the opportunity to go ahead and apply for it.
I guess I would like to see your membership throw something in the kitty, and not just come to us to help you with the grant and the $10,000.
We're willing to do it ourselves. We're also willing, if we get the grant and hire the right person, we'll build a town back for all the economic development that they do for the town.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much, and that will be the discussion.
I failed to see the other director, Sean Chappelle, and Candace Faithful, they're both new to the community, you might not know them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to our community then. Thank you. All right, Melody, if you want, how long do you think your presentation will be, Melody? Okay. Thank you for allowing us to do a little speech here.
I know we've already decided to trap meter and reform, but I've worked with RJ from the Canada Alberta Task Force and Joel from the SBCA for many years, and I asked if they would come and speak, but they said no, they have to be asked officially by a town council. But they sent me a bunch of links and said, this is what we would say anyways. Okay, so yes, there is going to be a vacuum effect. Same as if they're killed. If cats leave an area, more are going to fill it. So you will have to keep doing this over and over and over, and that costs a lot of money and causes a lot of distress to the animals.
Can I ask you something? Has there been a study done to show the effect of reducing the size of the colony? Has there been actual study done?
There have been.
Okay.
Yes. So these, we're really hoping that the ones that we've already done are not going to be relocated, because we know all of them, and some of them have been there for so many years that probably, probably grown to be huge. Okay, so alleycat.org was one of the links that they sent me. And it just basically says that there will be a vacuum effect. Even the strictest feeding bans on cats won't change anything. It's impossible to rid an area of food sources, especially for cats who are naturally gifted scavengers. We think that the abundant supply of insects and rodents in most outdoor spaces, plus food waste in and around dumpsters, it quickly becomes apparent how plentiful food is for cats in towns and cities. Joseph Ciccarelli, director of San Jose Animal Care and Services, that has a strong TNR program in place, says for the past 50 years we've killed umpteen cats and we're no better off. He says that system clearly does not work. We have to try something new. And this is unfortunately an American site, but it says according to a 2017 Harris Interactive poll, 84% of Americans prefer that their communities use tax dollars to adopt sterilization as its cat control policy instead of bringing cats out outdoors into shelters. And that's not just states, because I've had lots of people tell me they wouldn't mind having a tax increase if we could do something about the cats. The Humane Society, it tells, your cats roam less, they don't have the meals, they don't cause fighting, they don't mark the territory as much. If the cats are TNR, the population will stabilize. And again, the Humane Society also reiterates the vacuum effect. The vacuum effect is a phenomenon scientifically recognized by all types of animal species. Well documented among biologists, the vacuum effect describes what happens when even a portion of an animal population is permanently removed from its home range. Sooner or later, the empty habitat attracts other members of the species from neighboring areas, who move in to take advantage of the same resources that attracted the first group. Realize that lots of people don't like having outdoor cats around because they dig in the garden and that sort of thing. But there are ways to help fix that, which I've given you in the handout. And if you go to humanesociety.org, it says right here, how can you keep cats out of the yard or garden? That's the different ones. And some people complain about the birds. So there is something there about the birds as well that is in the handout. Okay, now, so I put this up here because I know all the colonies and I know all the pets. There are a lot of indoor-outdoor pets. There's 100% outdoor pets. There's ferals, and then there's abandoned, lost, or previously pets. I have pictures of the neighbors' cats because I don't want to trap people's cats. So a lot of the time, I go up to that colony, and I don't get anything because I have to let cats go, because they're all pets. And in fact, we've got one up there that knows when I'm coming, he knows that means free tuna, and I'm going to let him go. So he goes in there, every single trap. I have to hang on to him because otherwise he will set all the traps down. The best, in a perfect world, as John says, best idea is that they should be kept indoors. More owners are realizing that cats are safer and can lead happy lives indoors. Approximately 71% of the estimated 8 million pet cats in the U.S. are kept indoors. Trap neuter in return does work. It's been proven time and again. We've got most of the colonies done. We've done all the ones that we don't. We've done all the ones in different places in town. We don't want them relocated. That's possible, because that's where their home is, and again, the vacuum effect. Okay, and yes, I realized you are going to rehome to barn cats. I have run asking for a Barn Buddies program for years, and I had one person say, yes, I'd like to do that. And I said, okay, do you realize you have to keep a cat enclosed for at least 3, possibly 4 weeks? Then they said, forget it. I would like to know if this is going to be done properly. Because if they don't keep them for that long, they will just try to return home. They have excellent homing instincts, and they'll just be hit by cars or killed by predators because they won't want to stay there. We know we can't have an animal rescue here, but it would be nice to have some place to house the cat before and after surgery. As an example, I was working well, but then the contract written up for us to sign was just not acceptable. He said we could have legal representation put over. We took it to 2 different lawyers, and both said there's no way anyone should sign that contract. There was recently an article in the Lethbridge News about the community getting together to volunteer to make shelters for the feral cats. It would be great if we could do this as a community project. It can be done fairly inexpensively, and would protect putting money into fixing cats who will just perish in the community.
Melody, yes. Councillor Cole has a question for you.
Okay.
Also, to your questions, I'm going to play the devil's advocate a bit.
Okay.
Birds are invasive.
catch an invasive species. I was up in the East Hill, and a fellow I know says, "Come look at my yard. 3 dead birds right there and down that." Another neighbor up in the East Hill stopped to talk to me. He says, "Yeah, it happened. Quite a few nights I have 8 or 10, but he just lives on the block of the colony. I have 8 or 10 cats outside my house doing whatever they're doing. I've had neighbors complain about feces and urine smell. They can't go out in their yard. They dig up their gardens, etc. And my own cats, I have cats since I've had a dog for 40 years. So I'm a pet person. So I have them out in Glenwood, which is great because there's lots of room for them to roam. But our whole neighborhood, we've got 1 or 2 cats that are their own. But I've had to put cinnamon in my sandbox to make grandkids play in because they use it as a bathroom at nighttime when they're out roaming around. Now, I don't let my dog roam around at night. And I'm not so sure putting 40 cats packed in that neighborhood is going to make everybody happy because of what I just mentioned. The allergies, the smell, the urine, the cat who's speaking to the birds. I mean, they kill millions of them every year. So.
I have bird feeders. I feed birds, I feed cats.
So do I.
I can put bird feeders on top of the cat feeder and the cats will leave alone because they're being fed. So there's no reason for them to go after birds. And I realize, yes, people think, okay, they put in our garden and everything. I don't know. I don't know why there are any different from cats.
So the birds don't eat the cats.
Well,
What difference?
like I said, in my yard, I have not seen a single bird. And I have lots of birds in my feeders.
Councillor Burton.
On the vacuum concept, and are you saying that if we had a colony of 40 cats and we took out 40, we get 40 back, or do we get 1 back?
No, it will decrease immediately.
No, it's so
but it will
what if we
bounce
just
back.
left it and we had 100 cats? We took about 100? Like, somehow I start to wonder how they know that that's a 40 cat thing they're replacing. Like, it seems to me maybe you get 1 cat in there, but why did you get 40 back?
Because they will replace. They will take the place of the other ones. Plus, we don't have a colony of 40 cats in town. The biggest colony we have is 25, and they're at 95% done.
The second question, what do you say to the neighbor who has the 25 cats? So we spent tax dollars, we neutered them, and put them back. Does the neighbor feel like he's better off for having gone through that process? What about that person?
Well, for one thing, they're not going to be marking
Cats might be better off, but I'm asking about the person who lives next door.
Yeah. Well, the cats won't be marking as much. They won't be fighting. Yes, they will probably still poop in the yard. But other than that, if they're all fixed, that usually takes care of all that other stuff.
But what if he doesn't want 25 cats? What do you say to him?
What do you say to him? What I say when people ask me, I say, we're working on getting it done.
If getting it done, you still have 25 cats, what have you done? Is the question.
These cats, that's why I said we need shelters. Because we do have shelters around. And if there's more shelters, they will stay in the yards with the shelters.
But what if we put the cats in the shelters, then what happens is there are 40 more feral cats that will be tucked away?
No, I mean, I'm not talking about like a shelter like the town. I'm talking winter shelters.
Cat house.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Do you want to finish your presentation, Dylan?
just wanted to say, yes, I understand that you want to be home anyways, but I'm just, please follow the farm rules. It's been proven time and again that they will just return and they will just die on their own.
Melody, thank you for being an advocate for the animals. Thank you so much. We, as council, have to consider there's the animals, there's the taxpayer, there is inconvenience to the neighborhood, and all that has to find a place and a balance somewhere.
Right.
So, thank you.
There was one more thing I was going to this woman, she thought that we were going to be getting the money to the senior coming. We were told that we were not getting the money. And that's one of the problems is I hear, well, so-and-so said this, and so-and-so said this. Well, this is what's right. Well, I have never had a single piece of paper or anything saying, like the first year, they just gave me money, said, go for it. Second year, I was doing the same thing. And, oh no, the town council said, you can't do that. You want to spay. Spay neuter. I said, well, it would be nice if somebody told me that. Because I hear one thing here and I hear another thing here. It would just be nice if there was something written down. Because, yeah, you said you thought the $12,000 was going to come to us. We were told.
I didn't think it was coming to you directly, but I knew that the town had allocated that money and that it was going to Dr. Merkley to fix them, was my understanding.
Yeah, but we were told it's not going to happen.
Either way, I'm hearing communication clearly we're struggling with, and that needs to be fixed
Yeah,
as soon as possible. I hear you.
Last year, we were given $2,500. I never heard about it. So I went to Dr. Merkley and said, hey, can you sign this saying that we did not receive any money this year? And this was December. And so Dr. Merkley got on the phone and said, hey, what's going on here? And so we were given the $2,500 in December, and we were told it doesn't roll over until next year. So we got a total of 3 cats done. So if we had better communication, like I don't want $12,000. I want it to go right to Dr. Merkley. Then I don't get accused of anything. But yeah, we need better communication.
All right, Melody, thank you for raising that.
Thank you.
We'll address that too. Thank you. All right.
Is there any chance I can just say one thing? I know you guys probably have time with that. I really think
You've had your time on this. I think we understand the issue. I think you have kind of brought it properly from the scientific perspective, from the local perspective, from the funding perspective. I think we have got all those elements, and we'll be able to deal with it in 2 weeks' time when we debate regarding the funding, regarding the decision that will be made at that point. Okay, thank you so much. We need to carry on with all this. Thank you. All right, we have under 4 adoptions of the minutes.
I make that motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of town council of October 22nd, 2024.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much.
You have 2 sets of minutes, right?
Yes, and then under 4B, we have the minutes of the organizational meeting of October 22nd. Councillor Kenyon?
I'll make a motion to approve the organizational meeting on October 22nd, 2024 minutes.
All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, so I will sign the for you. So under 5, 5H will be the agri-dog first. So Councillor Burton, you had sent, mentioned that there were two small kind of changes that were made.
Yeah, so since we reviewed it last, I met with the Egg Society and they asked for two changes, which I thought were good. One was we had a provision in there that they would be responsible for any costs associated with any environmental damage. And they said, but who determines that? And so could it be that if it's in violation of the legislation? And I'm no expert in that area, but I assume that they're pretty aggressive on their legislation. So it's probably fair. So I added the wording that says, if they're in violation, then they're responsible for that. And the second one was, I couldn't remember, it wasn't just tested the last one, it was that, and this is their request. So they requested that we prohibit them from precluding people from visiting or being on the premises. So not things associated with their association, but on the premises, that we have to approve that. The same as we would at the pool or at the ice rink. We have occasions in the past for some reason the behavior is so outlandish that we said for some period of time we will prohibit it. That came from the town, not from
the exercise.
Yeah, and so they're asking that they're saying if in the future to council to their boards trying to kick somebody out of the facility, it's a town facility, so they want us to
deal with that.
Those are the two changes.
Okay, all right. So, Councillor.
Here, so kind of so they want to control who comes in and out, and they want us to
the town to deal with it.
So say they have Joe Blow that they don't, that is breaking rules.
So if
They come to us and say, can you handle it?
First they would decide that Joe shouldn't be there, and they'd have the reasons, and then they'd have to we'd have to agree with them before they could tell Joe he can't come on the premises.
What about previous people that have been, is there anyone that's like not allowed there now? I know
right now, everybody's allowed.
Okay. Councillor Grainger.
So that sounds like they want us to be the bad guys if somebody's misbehaving, breaching their own code of conduct, right? Which is required under the Egg Societies Act of the province to have a code of conduct. Because attached to that group, we had issues, or they had issues with people behaving badly and breaching their own code of conduct. So if I understand you correctly, and if that happened again moving forward, they want us to boot them out of the facility, not them.
So I think that's not how they present it to me. So they're differentiating between their code of conduct regulates internally within their society. If I as a part of that, sorry, I as a member of the public go there to watch a rodeo, I'm not there as any part of their society. They're saying, and that's they're saying I'm not restricting from activity within society, it's restricting from the town facility.
Okay, so could we maybe look at it from this point of view? You have a rodeo, they are serving alcohol, there's somebody that's inebriated. I expect the town to call the RCs to deal with it.
No.
All right, so we're not getting it.
So what they're saying is, it's not about calling the police. It's in the future. So that guy, let's say the police come and get him, he sobers up, and the society said, you know what, his behavior was so egregious, we don't want him on the premises
In time to come.
for the next 3 months, the next year, whatever it is.
Okay. Then
But they couldn't do that unilaterally. They would have to come back to the town and have us agree with them. Because the current board feels like there have been situations where, and I don't know all the detail, although I've had some discussions about it, all the details are slightly different. The police were called to remove someone because the society had said you can't come here. I would say, like we would do at the pool, like we would do at the ice arena, the town would have to agree that that person couldn't come. So
Because it's a town facility.
yeah, so somebody at the arena has a fight. I don't know what kind of skit on. I don't frequent the arena, but I can imagine.
I was on the board then, and know all about this. And the reason that these people were asked to leave is because part of their, these people had breached the code of conduct, they were not allowed to come onto the facility anymore. That was part of the penalty, if you will, for breaching the code of conduct. They were persona non grata for 12 months, and after the 12 months they could come back. But some of them, and there's probably 3 or 4 incidents that I can specifically recall, said, to heck with that, we're coming anyway. So they come into the facility, and they had been banned as part of the penalty for breaching their code of conduct. And they wouldn't leave. Board members and staff told these people to leave, and basically forced the Ag Society people to call the RCMP to have them removed. So I will vote against this agreement if what they're asking for is we have to be the bad guy in an instance like that, because after this happened, it was very clear that not the old board that I was on, but the new people, the people you're dealing with on the board, were uncomfortable with being the bad guys. And if they are asking us to step in an instance like that, to me that's their responsibility, because these people have breached their code of conduct.
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with the
All right,
town.
Councillor Grainger, thank you for your perspective. I just want to ask Jeff a question. This is a contract that essentially is between the town and the Ag Society. So I'm trying to understand that clause and how it sits with administration.
I'm not sure I've given it much thought, because we're just bringing it up now. I mean, I get both sides of this discussion, right? Because it's a very gray area. It's not well delineated where your privileges as a member of the Ag Society start and stop versus your privileges as a citizen of the town to use the facilities. Right. That's not delineated well. So I can see, here's a clear picture where I can see this coming into play. So Councillor Burton boards horses at the Ag Society, and he refuses to pay his fees, and he abuses his animals and has them in such a state that they're in bad shape. So that would violate a code of conduct or an agreement, and he might be barred from ever having his animals at the facility again. And that would be perfectly reasonable, by the way, if he was barred from doing that. The question is now, should he never be able to attend a rodeo event or come to the pet show in Heritage Week? And that's where it's very different. Now, if he were to, when the Ag Society went to him and said, look, Allan Burton, you can no longer board here, and he had a fit, and he wrecked stuff, and he drove his truck through the corrals, and he just had an absolute fit, then I can see us saying, you know what, we don't want you there ever again, if that's how you're going to be. But every action of every participant there is not delineated to say where one starts and stops very well. So I think we have a challenge. And I don't know right now, standing here, Mayor, what fixes that exactly.
Okay, so that's my question. Are we wise to approve something that we're not 100% sure how to get the fix? There is a gap. And are we trapping ourselves by signing it right now?
So I think Jeff has well articulated the issue, where does one start and one stop. It is reasonable, but they could be different for exactly how you described it. So I personally would have a problem with it, but if council does have a problem, then my motion would be to approve that contract, less that provision, because it's not fatal to the agreement. I'm sure we could like to go on without that. That was an afterthought of theirs.
Yeah.
And I'd be very comfortable making that motion with the big X through paragraph whatever it is.
Or sorry, and then if I can add, if you X that out, then I'll vote for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's
I
too
really.
ambiguous and it's
Yeah.
problematic.
Even if there's a question,
Yeah.
we don't need to have it. If there was
Yeah.
something else that were integral to the agreement, then I'd
Right.
push back, but I don't think that is integral. to the
Sorry,
agreement.
and what if we take it out, are they gonna
Hold
sign
on.
it?
Councillor,
That's up to them.
Councillor, we are dealing with this, what I do is their problem.
Okay.
So right now we deal with our issues.
Go
Councillor
ahead.
Jensen.
Right.
I would just say there's nothing preventing the parties from continuing to negotiate that item and amending the contract later. If we figure out what that delineation looks like, and this is just from Jeff only, anecdotally from Jeff, there's room to improve on what is the expectation and responsibility of an ag society member and encompassed in that membership versus someone that just wants to use the facility. I've talked to them about, so I have horses and I wouldn't mind using an arena sometime for certain elements of training. I don't have any interest in being a member of the society, but I would certainly be open to using the arena from time to time. And if I abuse that privilege, maybe I should be prohibited from using the arena. But you have no control over me as a society member. I don't wish to be.
Because even
No,
the board-
Councillor, I did not call your name yet.
So I just say there's so much nuance, and that I don't think there's any reason we couldn't keep having this discussion, and then amend that in the future. I think that would be appropriate.
So, Councillor Burton, what would be your preference at this time? And
Preference
Councillor
would
Grainger
would
has
be that
gone
we
to-
stop the discussion. It has been a good one, but I think it's go on. And I'm going to make a motion, is it 4D?
For C.
4C.
Okay,
I'm going to make a motion that we approve entering the contract with it being edited to remove provision 4C.
okay, thank you. Question? Go
Very
ahead,
quickly,
Councillor.
my understanding, and you will know the answer to this, even if you're not a member of the society, but you want to board your horse there, you still have to sign the code of conduct. Is that not the case? I believe it is.
I don't know the answer to that. I've worked horses there and haven't signed it, nobody's ever asked me to, and I've been there doing both boards. So,
Well, they should, my understanding is that that is a requirement. Because, and they made that in their policies because, you're right, you may not want to be a member of the society, but you still want to board your horse, and they'll take your business and everybody's happy.
But I think
But
if we-
the person boarding the horse can't just do what they want, they have to follow the rules, which are in the code of conduct, so.
Okay, all right.
I think if
So
we take
that's
4C
enough.
out, it is what it is.
So we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Thank you. Done. So we shall carry on with this conversation. Thank you. All right, let's go to 5A budget. Let's go. You had it.
Feisty, Councillor.
Yeah,
Just kidding. No feistiness in the budget, I promise. Council, thank you. There is a 11 by 17 in front of you again. I do want to approach this review very, very differently. I need you to follow me to some page numbers here. There are very few changes on the operational side since last time we talked. There's a whole bunch of stuff in transfers to and from reserves, but that's really just used to fund and balance the capital side. So what I wanted to talk to you tonight about was what the major capital proposed for 2025 is, making sure that you are satisfied with that, you're okay with it. We do have some questions that I need some input from council. So I forgot my pen and I always need that. And so I know this isn't super convenient, but if I could just have you follow, I'll jump around just a little bit because I want to approach this a little bit differently because I think it will make it quicker.
Can you just give
When's
Councillor
the
Tony?
appropriate time to talk about, like, hey, I think we should up this or lower this, or
Anytime.
I know we're talking about budget, but like now or after we have our conversation, or like, it's something like if we're going through this, like.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, I wasn't going to go through the operations,
Okay.
particularly page by page, but when I skip that page, stop me.
It's really basic.
Well,
Okay,
or now, I don't
No,
care
go
at
ahead.
all.
Okay, what do you want to address?
Yeah.
It's really, I had brought it up, I think, again, it's very simple,
This
and,
is pretty candy.
well, we need more for the rain parade, anyway. It was fireworks. I had brought this up
Oh, yeah,
a while ago, and it's something little that I think that the town could kind of, in a way, give back to the citizens. And I would love to see $10,000 somewhere split between the two, or $10,000 towards even our Heritage Day ones. That's our big one. I would just like to. I know when we got that grant from the Canada Day or from the government that one year, I had so many people say that fireworks show it was better, bigger, and everyone was talking about it. And so it's $10,000, whether we put it all towards the Heritage or split it between the two. It's just something that I would like to see done. Just to give the citizens something.
We did bump each one by $1,000. You did have that conversation though. I will.
And I would say put it all on the Heritage Day one first.
Go 7 and 5 something, or
10.
to the 10 and some sparklers.
Okay. Well, Councillor,
Everyone gets a sparkler.
good on you for
I appreciate it, Councillor. We will look
looking
at that.
for the joy of the citizens of our town.
It's like the kids
It's
enjoy
good.
the whole town.
Yeah.
Everybody
Thank
gets
you.
together. So.
Thank you. Good point.
Okay, well, if we could start tonight on page 28. And again, I acknowledge I am jumping around here, so please bear with me. So I gotta grab one other paper so I can make a
Let
straight
me
line
just stay
across.
there forward. We like it.
Yeah, no, we're not, we're gonna go back. We're not starting at 28. Yeah, sorry. This is our utility capital portion, so I wanted to talk to you about the 2025. And the reason why, by the way, it's on 2025 is we do have that year balance right now. So we have it pretty much funded and balanced. With the 2%. Yeah, right. Yeah. And so the 4 and 5 year capital, we don't. I don't want to make any claims that we're close. Year 2 and 3, we're really close on both. And so I think by next meeting, we'll have everything balanced based on your feedback tonight. And then we'll have a slush of a couple of weeks there for the December 10th meeting to kick around. Except for fireworks, of course. We'll see if we can fund that better.
And candy.
And candy, that's right. So I just wanted to talk about what we're planning for capital. And this year, it's a lot of smaller things, but I'll go over that. If you look at the very beginning of uses of capital, storm sewer capital, we are planning on 3 projects, all very small. So just finishing up some tail end creek bank rehabilitation next year, probably planting some willows and just doing a few things where the rocks stop and start. Very small. And then 2nd Avenue cul-de-sac, we're just wanting to replace all the catch basins for the storm in there. Page 28, middle of the page, Mary.
Yeah, mine was 29, 28 comes after.
What? I copied yours easy. Or was it something different?
All right, don't
Add
worry about
that to the
Just push that.
Keep on going.
Yeah.
It's okay, I found there's 28. I
Okay,
got
great.
one.
And then Lions Park Creek Bank repair. If any of you walk the trail, when you get almost down to Lions Park, it's right up on the edge of the trail now. It's eroding that trail. And so, yeah, Shane, please here. And we have a lot of excess rock from this project, and so we're just planning on starting to find spots that we can pick away at and see what their own courses, and that's why it's only a $20,000 project.
Please tell me we don't have to go hold it right.
Well, we'll have to go through the approval process for everything, for sure. Yeah. Most of that $20,000 will be engineering, because we'll have to pay an environmental firm, we'll have to pay the biologists, we'll have to pay, yeah, for sure.
Last year, the next council, we did
Right.
that.
The 2028 will actually get that.
No.
No, I don't want to be pessimistic.
Councillor,
Yeah,
thank
quickly
you.
on that, so is that under our existing permit extended, or?
No,
is it
we'll have to start, it's too far away.
In the August fish
Yeah.
window? Okay.
Truth be told, Councillor, the work by Councillor Burton's house, that was the same permit with a contiguous project. We actually just did all that under the same one, the expanded project. The other ones, I'm afraid, is the bridge too far, is the saying would go. There is no way we'll be able to expand that. Yeah. Yeah. So then under water capital, there's quite a number of things and that we want to talk about, but a couple of them aren't funded yet. So I just wanted to point that out, and we're working on that right now. That first one, Main Street Water Engineering, that's just the Main Street project that Associated is rolling over in
Are you?
Sorry, I got a question on that. That I call the associated contract is the Main Street pre-design. It's sanitary, storm, and roads. Is that where it sits? Yeah, it's underwater. We just left it there. Okay, can you change the name to Main Street pre-design so that people don't look at this and think, oh, it's just water. It's more than water. But that's how it has to be where in the budget it sits.
The main, sorry.
So not directly a financial issue, but related to that. I had Jeremy Scott in my home last weekend. Talked to him about Main Street tourism things, and we thought maybe it would be a good idea, maybe it's there already, but in our design of Main Street, we're looking at septic and things like that. Have we considered tourism aspect? In other words, markers, so that instead of that trend of foot traffic in tourist centers is seen in Lethbridge, Calgary, and Edmonton, it's dramatically declining. But the online is getting back. But he still thought that, actually, my idea of asset, and he agreed with it, is that if we had markers indicating our main attractions, so for example, say the Agrodome this way, the temple that way,
Yeah.
the Remington Center, you know what I mean? In other words, is that part of what we're paying for? Is that analysis as well?
So there is a theme of, there's a word I want here, Councillor Grainger. Well, there is some wayfinding, and and all the amenities on the street just make it look better. There is kind of a looks theme there. Streetscaping, thank you. So there's 3 streetscaping themes they're going to be presenting you with, which includes wayfinding signage. We do have wayfinding signage. It's green. It's on every corner downtown. It's in the high school, the soccer park, the ice rink, and that.
Yeah, I said that maybe something a little more apparent. You know what I mean? Like, I'm no expert, but I'm just saying, you're just picturing somebody comes into town, they don't stop at the tourist center, but, oh, look, there's whatever, this way,
Sure.
you know, in other words, not just if I'm trying to find it, I could get there, but it would draw my attention to the fact that it was there, and it would be enjoyable to the
My recollection of the terms of reference for associated and what Jeff was just saying is that we made the pre-design, and it's a pre-design report, and it's focused on infrastructure. But Jeff, you're telling us that there'll be some elements in the pre-design report.
I've seen it.
Yeah, will address this.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I can tell you that when we did Banff, we didn't have wayfinding signage and this kind of thing in the work, and it was a separate afterthought. And for the town of Banff, once we wasn't really involved in it, but once they did the wayfinding, Banff spent almost $1 million on wayfinding signage. Now they're bigger and more tourist oriented than we are because they're a park, etc., etc. But don't underestimate what this could cost. We're going to see the tip of the iceberg in this pre-design report.
It would make it cheaper to think about it first instead of after.
Well, it's always better to think about it at this early stage, but it may grow.
All right, can we carry on?
We'll let you get through capital and then go.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So the 2 water sewer projects next year are currently slated to be we have it as IGA. We talked about this last time, but 6th Avenue, 1st Street East water loop. So let me explain this. There's a water line that comes, so if AG Foods is sitting here and I'm facing east, so just to the south of AG Foods, there's a water line that comes down that road and it dead ends by the Church Information Center. That's where it stops. And then if you hang a left and take, is that 5th Avenue, and then turn back in, there's 3 houses in there, that water line goes in there and stops. So we have these dead-end water lines, and the intent for years, this is way back, I remember Dave Burrows talking about this, was to get all of that looped, so that it went through past the provincial building, through that empty lot, and then tied in and everything looped. So it helps with pressurization, it helps with the water moving, the water getting used. And so we also, the current infrastructure, and you might have seen this year, we actually had to dig through one of the folks' driveway, down right along their driveway, because the lines run through the private property. And we had to take out one of their great big pine trees that we don't think is going to make it through the winter. And that sewer line had a failure this year, and so we had to dig on it and fix it. And so we bumped that in priority to do that whole loop and move everything to property lines and get it away from going diagonal through that property, through driveways and everything else. So it's intended to come past the Church Information Center, across by the provincial, head north, and then head straight along the property line, going east, and then down past Councillor Burton's house and tile and everything there. So you'll see that on water, sewer, and drainage. So you'll see that on all three. And then the other, 5th Street, Highway 5 to 2nd Avenue. So 5th Street West, go up the highway, and it's that first block. Highway 1st to 2nd Avenue, or Highway 5 to 2nd Avenue. So we're having a water main issue there, and the road is poor. The road's in really poor condition, and the utilities are not far behind it, and so that's the one that we're planning on taking out, that whole block, water, sewer, and asphalt.
It's behind the hospital.
No, you're further up, Councillor, so all the way up to 5th. I don't know if any of you know, well, not to point out, but Jill's block, where she lives. That's how we refer who lives where. But, so it's that block, and we've actually coated that road before, and it's just time. That road's in particularly bad shape. So those are the two major stretches for water. You'll see those on all three, on water, sewer, and asphalt. So that's, and then there's a number of little items you've seen, and we're still looking for funding, for example, on the chlorine room upgrades. We talked about this before, this isn't a new one. We are just getting some new numbers on the things that were updated since last time, but in 2025, I think we've hit on everything else in there before. So that's water capital.
So the taste and odor recommendation, I see you have it in red.
Yeah, we just don't have the cost back on recommendation.
Okay.
So we're just waiting.
If I can, I have a question on that. Is this where we would slot money if we want to continue to look at alternate water supply, groundwater versus surface? Would go in that red line?
Yeah. Well, it would go, yeah, probably, yeah. I think we had a line similar to last year.
So I wouldn't want to lose 2025 in terms of our initiative, especially if we get the results on the work we're doing this year that water, might be a better source of water than the surface water that we're using. By the way, have we been able to drill the test wells in that?
I just got to know. I got to follow up. I just haven't asked.
Okay.
So I'll find out.
So are we going to try and put something in there in this provisional budget?
If I can get some decent numbers back on what that might be. So that I just need to do a follow-up on where it's at.
Okay. Thank you.
And then page 29, or whatever that is for you, Mayor, if it's not the next one.
Yeah, it's 29, I have 29 questions.
And this will mimic a lot of what we just talked about. So sanitary sewer capital, 6th Avenue. We did have this once in phase 1 and phase 2, and Brandon would, he got looked at, just the complexity of the project, he'd like to just really all get it done in one. So we've got that in there for sanitary, and then we have a grinder replacement in the lift station, and then the 5th Street sanitary as well. So those are the main, obviously the sewer plant, not to forget about that little chestnut.
Well, on the sewer plant, we're showing 14 twice, 28.
It's a carry forward, yeah.
Oh,
it's a
if you look
carry
at
forward.
it.
Okay. So I thought it was 16.
And it might be, but we don't know until it gets out to tender. So in this case, Councillor, whatever it is, if it's 9 or 30.
Get a loan.
Shouldn't we be using Associated's most recent redesign cost estimate?
We can, but again, whether it's 10 or 30, the revenue is going to have to offset the expense in the budget, right? So the impact on the budget should be the same no matter what number we have plugged in there right now, because we're going to have to fund it somehow, no matter what it comes in at. So I just haven't worried about that. Number's been sitting there since we did this exercise a year ago.
So, Councillor, what Jeff is trying to tell us, no matter which way, the 14 million is going to need to be funded through taxes, from utilities, from whichever, through loans, whichever will come to the tax. And so the revenue will be up by whatever, so through other means of funding, and the capital will be up according to what the true cost will be eventually. So it makes no difference that it looks like 60 million or 80 million or 20 million. It looks bad, but at the end, when we approve the tax rate in May, all will be adjusted according to the cost. Everything.
One thing we can do is, because again, this is a number we've probably been carrying for 2 or 3 years now, just taking one step at it. So we can tidy that up and we can put in hypothetically what we think the funding will be. We just don't have any approval on it yet.
We don't have the source of the funding.
Yeah, I get all that. It's just that I'm, in my previous lives, I'm used to when you've got what you think is a more accurate number, which is 16, not 14, that we throw in 60.
Good.
All right. So thank you for your input.
Okay, I'll look at that. That was all really on sanitary. And then if I just, like I said, if I can hit parks capital, then we can take a break and talk about operations in a minute. Parks capital, go back to page 15, because we're outside of the utility budget now. We go back to the tax budget. So if you can just go to page 15 for me. As far as any changes from last time we talked about, there's a number of just little things. Joshua's been doing quite a bit of work with Parks Department, with the Recreation Master Plan. But there's a couple of conceptual things. Oh, they're on the next one, sorry. No, I'll get to that. We have some conceptual things we'll talk about on the next section. The things added since we last talked was just continued walking trail and campground trail expansions. So continuing to pick away and extend that and pave it where we can. We have a couple mowers that need replaced. I think the truck was already in there. We talked about, and then just renovation of the Lions Park bathroom. That was it from changes since last time we talked. Just looking at our equipment needs. We moved a few things to later years because they were working fine, so we did an assessment of some of the conditions and pushed those a little bit. There is a couple things further down just on Ice Center. There's some electrical, fire stuff. It's a group of a whole bunch of little things. We're going to just do some improvements, about $27,000 worth.
Councillor Burton, Councillor Kinley.
So I didn't mean to interrupt, but
By all means.
the campground, are we all done what we planned to do?
We've got, you'll see in the operational side, we have a few small things like putting bollards around the perimeter so people can't drive through, like on that south end. It's still wide open there.
Yeah, that's what actually I was asking.
No, that's specifically in here for some bollards and security.
Is there any plans to fence that? Because some people who live reasonably close, were using the facilities for the
Oh, really?
things like that.
Oh, okay.
So, because we have that chain link fence that goes partly.
Right, yeah.
And then on that end, you could drive a semi through there right now, but
Yeah.
but even if we put some blockades, it's still to prevent sort of itinerant traffic from coming in. I don't know, just a thought.
No, I'll talk with.
I looked at it, just looked like maybe I drove down there, but I maybe wasn't finished on
Yeah,
that.
no, agreed, it isn't. Yeah, we have some money specifically for bollards and barriers, for lack of a better term, at the campground and also at the basketball court, because we have that big wide open area there that you could drive through. We just want to get some bollards in there and close that off a little bit. So Brandon has that a couple different places in there, but I'll talk to him about fencing and
Councillor Kinley.
Yeah, I had two questions. The playground there at the campground, the reunion center, is that being replaced this year, right?
Reunion Center tot lot is down there to be replaced, yes.
Oh, you didn't see it.
It's in the, we didn't talk about it today because we had it last time, but it's about 6 lines down under Parks Capital. Reunion Center tot lot, $45,000.
Anything else, Councillor?
We're waiting to hear about the CPAP grant on it.
So I was wondering, with the ice rink, there was that big warranty thing that what happened with that?
Yeah, that one was interesting. In fact, I had no idea. Our insurance actually covered most of that. which was very interesting. We had an insurance against premature failure of like certain equipment. Now, so it was 108,000 or 110,000 or something. We had to pay 50, and the insurance paid the difference. Now the company,
Are you still going after that?
that services them is still, they have it, and they're still trying to see if they can figure out what's going on. But yeah, our insurance picked up the lion's share of that replacement. So very interesting. Nobody knew we had that kind of insurance for that. So yeah, there's kind of a smattering of things between the ice rink and the parks for capital. And then I just wanted to touch on one more, and again, we can come back to any of this, but if you just go back to page 14, so just go back one page. Under our new pavement, which is a really long list, you're going to find that 6th Avenue project is in there, the 5th Street West is in there. We want to replace all of the recycled asphalt from 7th to 9th on the west bypass in front of the Agrodome. So dig all that out, work on the road bed, and recoat that.
The road gets so bad over and over.
Every winter, every spring.
So the west by 12th Street west of the Agrodome.
Councillor.
So I do have a question. I mean, that's fantastic. But my question is on the other one, the one that...
On 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
7th.
7th, yeah.
7th.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sweet mother of all
A little
things.
rough.
Yes, but even on a it's really, really rough. So I just wondered, I know the town has numbers of, this area needs it. Is that like within our 5-year team?
So it's on here, but there's some big caveats with that.
Yeah.
So right now we have $205,000 budgeted to pave 7th Avenue. However, you have some decisions that the council will make, and this is a bigger conversation. Yeah. The question is, we have an agreement, for example, with Cottonwood about sharing costs and paving and curb and gutter to that property. And then it really needs a bunch of work up to the corner, for sure.
Going west.
Going west of the station. The question is, are you going to allow those residents along that road to have that for nothing, or are they going to have to pay a local improvement tax? They're living along the road, the value of which they paid for. Yeah. They paid for a dirt road. They didn't pay for an asphalt road. There's 4 or 5 residences plus a big development that enters there. And the question is, should that be done by local improvement? Because if your answer is no, we'll just pay for it, then prepare for delegations to come forward. For everyone that lives on 10th, everyone that lives on 3rd, everyone that lives on Home Seekers, everyone that lives on 2nd East. Exactly. So we have some discussion to have on how far we're going for the benefit. Now, you have a good argument, by the way, that there's a lot of through traffic on that road. And so no matter what we do, in my opinion only, no matter what we decide to do there, and you decide to do there, the town should be paying a significant chunk of it because of the general community benefit. It isn't reasonable that Joe Citizen pays 100% of it and he is 2% of the traffic on the road. Right? The town needs to pay its share as well for the general benefit. So that's we do have it in here, Councillor, but we need to have some discussion on how it's going to be rolled out.
I would agree that they should pay something. The nitty-gritty of our local improvement bylaw is it allows some flexibility in terms of what you're able to assess and what the town is willing to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you almost have full discretion, Councillor.
So I would agree with what you said.
Yeah.
We let these folks off the hook. The people on Home Seekers, guaranteed, they're going to say, well, they got it for free, I want it for free.
Yeah, that's right. So we put that in there. But the revenue side, we may have to have some discussion about for sure.
Exactly.
I just wondered, thank you.
I too wanted to raise that question. But even if we don't pave it, can we just maintain it as a dirt road? Like I get some awfully big holes on the road. And I drove down there just to see what it looked like when you do all the work. And, it's certainly no better, it might be worse. Can we just put a grader over it or something? I know this isn't budget, but you'd have to kind of have a truck and drive over grass through trees to get to the enforcement center.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we know that that's not a problem for them?
We're not here. It shouldn't be like
It
that.
matters, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Grainger,
Yeah.
and then we need to move on.
I was going to say, you know, if you put chips on a properly prepared gravel base, that might fit what you're talking about, because chip sealing is like 10% of the cost of asphalt. But if you just, yeah, but like Home Seekers is one of the best examples. We need to put a certain amount of maintenance dollars into a road like that to make it acceptable and passable in terms of dust and washboard. So if you don't put some kind of a hard surface on it, I think we're duty bound, because they are paying taxes, that we maybe do a better job of maintaining gravel roads. If we can afford to go one step further and put chip seal down, that would be a better level of service for a roadway like that.
All right, so those are good points, and I see administration making notes.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you.
So again, just for the paving, but again, we need to have some discussion. We'll probably try and budget and fund 7th, but then we need to have some discussion about how it's funded in the end and consult with that. We obviously need to start there, because at the very least, we'd sure like to see that get up to the corner next year, up to the pump house there, because that corner is bad, and you know, it needs. No one's arguing the condition. Yeah, no one's arguing the current condition. So that is in the budget, Councillor Brown, to your question. And then the projects I mentioned before are also in there. And then lastly, and then I'll let you get some pizza here. What did I have? Sorry, I thought I had one more. Nope, I think that's it for now. I think, wait. I had one more thing on the page before. Oh, yeah. So if you could turn to page 13. I just wanted to pitch something out. We have it plugged in here, but we're not even administratively convinced we want to go down this road. I suppose that was pun intended just yet, because I want to talk about it. I didn't really think about that. Under sidewalk capital, and I'm not sure this is where it needs to be, Brandon's really been doing a lot of work on how can our trail system expand through the community and be enhanced. What can we look at doing to enhance that? So we have a couple of things. They're not funded, by the way, just so you know. But we have some curb and swale, and a few things like that. But then there's a $200,000 under sidewalk capital, walking trail bridge along 9th Avenue West. So the intention here is we have the 9th Avenue bridge here. We would build a specific pedestrian bridge right below it. And so you would go down there and cross there, and you would have that loop that we're starting to make now coming back north towards the other bridge. Brandon's got some costs, we think we can do it for roughly that. And then the other one is, the next one is walking trail extension and a path by the Fire Hall Creek side. So now that we've moved that road over, we have some boulevard room. And the thought was, could we now start the pathway off of Main Street and find it, you know, having a good sidewalk or pathway that comes all along the creek side to the next bridge on 3rd Avenue, and just start to expand trail systems between bridges.
That would be fantastic, because my friends up on the East Hill, they complain often that our end over here is getting all of these wonderful walking trails, and they got nothing. They can't even cross the bridge barely without getting run over, because there is no sidewalk exactly where you're saying. So that is a tricky area. I'm all about that.
Yeah, so I just want you to stew on that between now and next meeting.
I like it.
Jeff, you mentioned in the past that the highways wants us to have a pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
Will they help pay for it?
I don't know about that.
How much do they want it?
Yeah. So
because it would take pedestrian and
Yeah.
horse and dog traffic off
Sure.
the highway.
So in the design on the Main Street Bridge, there is a dotted line of future pedestrian bridge. We weren't willing to commit to that at this point in time. And to your question, would they help pay for it? I mean, not to be cynical and euphemisms full of curse words, it's not likely. Right? And so it's certainly something we could ask, but that's why, you know, on this 9th Avenue one, they have expressed they'd like to see us get foot traffic off the 9th Avenue bridge as well. And so Brandon did some research on something we could do. Well, and then we can certainly start to have those conversations, because I don't see a downside in asking, right? So there's a quick, and we can come right back to any capital you want. Councillor Kenley has something from you?
Make a motion.
Oh, okay. And then we'll come back to it.
We're good?
Okay, motion
Motion for a 15-minute reset. Lunch break.
Are in favor? Thank you.
I won't
Take
take
it
too much
away.
more because we have some time. We're feeling pretty comfortable in having the next 2 meetings to work through this. So I've gone with broad strokes of capital. Please look it over. Please give feedback. We'll talk about it in 2 weeks as well. Operationally, there was just a couple. It really, literally, is just a couple. On page 5. So we're now in the tax operational budget.
Can I just ask you on page 1?
Yeah.
Regarding the MSI, now it's the LGF,
Right.
whatever you call it.
Yeah.
So, did they firm up the number for the next 3 years?
We know 25 and 26.
Okay, so you extrapolated 27. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, we know those two. Which actually, we're tough on municipal affairs a lot, but we've never had it like this.
No.
2 years out of notification before.
And I really honestly believe that it would be a nice thing of a council to thank them for appreciating how much we asked for that for years, and we finally have some projections, firm projections for 2 extra years. It really helps us establish budget.
That's a good thing.
And I think it's worth saying thank you.
So yes, you're right. Move to MSI to LGFF.
Thank you.
On that page 3, nope, where did I say before? 5, sorry, 5. Added, actually under our peace officer expenses, but it's at the very top of $5,000 there. We've added that to that SEPTEC grant program. We don't actually know what those requests are going to look like quite yet. Joshua and Leora started meeting with merchants and letting them know about the program, and we're just going to have to feel this one out next year a little bit because we just don't sort of need interest. So we plugged a number in there that isn't. We're trying not to overtax for something that may not come to pass. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention that we have plugged a placeholder.
Just wonder where we're at by the car home. You put that barrier in there.
Yes, sir. We've rolled it forward to next year, and then hopefully we'll work on it over this one.
Okay.
We're just running out of time, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing I wanted to show, just on page 9, there's only 2 things we've changed, and this is related to what Councillor Burton brought up. We have some money under campground maintenance and under parts and material for chain and color and basically barricades. Yep. But we added a fairly big chunk under parks and material, just so you're aware, in replacing all the outdoor drinking fountains at our parks. When they're working, they're not great. They'll shoot you in the face and knock you over some of them, or you can't get anything out of the other ones. And they're old PVC pipe with something brought up filled with gravel. Like, they were great for the time.
Okay, so as far as polycap for wall and fences was not done this year, but it's in the budget. Will they carry that over?
Yeah, we'll roll all that.
So all that stuff will go forward.
And we may still be able to get all that in, Councillor. I think that might be the goal.
Okay.
But yeah, for sure. Agreed.
Okay.
So I just wanted to be aware we are looking to do some of those little projects. We have a new pickleball court there, and we have a nice outdoor fountain at the soccer park, but the other ones they're at the end of life. They're just not doing great. The other thing, I don't think there was much more operational. There's a few little things here and there, but honestly, Council, that's about it on the operations side. So I don't want to get into this too much because I mentioned last time some changes we might make at the cemetery. So we do have that labor budget now as opposed to a contract. We haven't gone through all that yet, so you'll see that per as you go through it. And that's split out over a little bit in parks and cemetery and a few different areas, but the bulk of it's in cemetery. And then other than that, that's really what I wanted to go over with you tonight, and I've got some good feedback tonight, and I would welcome any over the next 10 days before we do this again. I'm relatively confident we'll be talking about really just some fine-tuning in 2 weeks, that operationally capital will be fairly balanced, I think. We haven't we haven't done, oh, that was one thing. When you look at in the water and sewer utility, of course, we're still not where we want to be, but that's in the right way, and we haven't inputted the increase in revenue based on the bylaw change yet. So that's going to help that trend better in the right direction. So when you look at that, please note that we still need to tweak the utility revenue based on projections under the bylaw if you pass it tonight.
And on the water side, we don't have any numbers at all. Let's say, for example, hypothetically, the water testing, the test well comes back, and we think that because I would like to make a decision in this term that if we're going to switch the water supply to something better in the groundwater, that we start doing that next year, so that we don't lose the momentum. So we've got to put some kind of a number in for that.
Yeah.
And you know, a well could cost you $80,000.
Yeah, so there's such a spread of what that could be, but okay, I'll be mindful of that for the next presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right, so this was 5A. Let's go to 5B. We have 4 or 5 requests. I think there were 4 actually. 4, 3, yeah. 5B 2025 donation requests. So there are some definitely that don't fit the criteria just regarding the timing. The donation policy is very clear that it has to be given 1 month ahead of the need for the donation. But many of those applications are for 2024, when really what we were asking was a 2025. There's one, and for sure. So let's go through them and let's have a discussion. So if you look at the first one is for the high school, the junior high, the junior high, yeah. And it's to buy prizes for our annual raffle we hold in November, December. And I know it is a big fundraiser. In the past, we provided them with swim card, ice rink, some kind of passes. So that's what they're looking for, 1 hour green rental, which is similar to what...
They're looking for far more than that, man. They're looking for $500.
That was a previous donation, was...
We did
The
1 hour
previous
green
donation was 1 hour green, was $100.
But they're asking for
This time what they want is 500. Okay. So here is a little bit of a need for discussion. Does it fit the parameters of our policy to start with?
So are they asking for 2 things here? Primary cash plus waiver?
So they,
Yeah.
they've got 2 separate requests. I just wanted to have a little bit of discussion about the second one because it doesn't fit this discussion at all. It's actually not for 2025 at all.
No.
And it has some troubles, but we've supported it in the past. So yes, you're right, Councillor. They're looking for some vouchers, essentially, giving them some vouchers and then cash on the first one.
Councillor Burton.
So the part about if it's provincially or federally funded, we won't qualify. That was there before we did our review. We didn't introduce that. Can you tell me what the thinking was behind that provision so I can understand it better? Why is that there?
Oh, I think it was to avoid double dipping of some sort. I think that's the only reason that I can see it makes sense. But when you try to fundraise, you try to get the money. Look at you can find the money in, right?
So So do you think, because I wasn't here when that was created, so we're fundraising for band equipment or, you know, whatever it is, to enhance those kids' the instruments and things like that, or, you know, like a play, those not funded by the school.
Yeah, the parents.
Yeah, that comes out of the parents' pocket. So I just wonder if maybe that isn't a violation of that, of the intent of that provision. Different than if we had, you know, some government organization come to us and say, hey, you know, we'd like to run 1 extra hour of programming a week. Differentiate those from because the money all comes from taxes for those programs, whereas here, there's mom and dad helping fund the training. That's different in my mind. I just want to make sure I was still in line with what I was thinking, but
So
I think we can differentiate it.
what would you suggest then in that case that our policy has an issue?
I'm, you know, without someone helping me understand better why that's there, I don't think it violates our provision because part of what we're raising money for isn't really anticipated to be funded by the province. Am I right? I mean, we can say, well, the province should, the province never has.
But they're looking for money for industry, yeah.
Yeah, things, you know, a little iffy, but like something like a band instrument or field trip.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you. I talked to my contact on the school board. She knows anything about this. But she did say that the junior high fundraising association is totally separate in the school board and school division. So I don't know if that affects that with the provincial or federal funding. Yes. I'm not sure I'm in favor of supplying a table.
This one.
Okay, let's do the first one first. Let's go to the first one. So what is the support around the table? For a round table.
Outside.
I think, if I may, I think tables are something that is supplied by the province. Other tables, you know what I mean? I think that's different. It's not expected that parents are having tables.
So then,
All right, so give me some down for that if you don't want the tables.
Where are you at?
Okay, indifferent, fine. So this one doesn't pass. So what is the next one that you want to go
So
ahead?
I do support this. I have no problem with giving vouchers to our swimming pool, to town-owned facilities that we've done it before. I don't have a problem with it. The ice arena, the golf course, we hand out vouchers occasionally. I don't see it as a huge drain on us financially. So I would support that one.
Okay, other point of view?
So, not another point of view, but dealing with the fact that we're less than a month ahead of the event. It takes place this year, not next year.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the criteria.
I
I can understand there could be some confusion if I'm Mrs. Pitcher. I have a deadline of October 31st, which for both of her is October 31st, so I'm sure in her mind she felt like she met the deadline. And it may not have been clear to her that it was a month. So I think the month ahead was so that we didn't feel rushed into making a decision. And I don't think we feel rushed on this because we're going to analyze them all together, and I could see that she could be confused. So I don't have a big problem with her not being less than 30 days because she made the November 1st deadline.
So this is interesting for me because normally I wouldn't even bring that one to council. Right? So I mean, well, no, it's just that I'll just deal with it internally a lot of times, right? It's you know,
the 500.
Yeah, it's under 500, but yeah, it doesn't meet some of the criteria in the policy. And it's like kind of what you're saying. Okay, it's by 3, by the way, is the criteria missed.
But I think more importantly, she made the big deadline.
But yeah, so know, so I'm like, how letter of the law do we want to be on? I just got a request today, from the Rotary Club for their event, their Dine and Dance, Dine and Dance is called Cookies and Cream now. And they're just looking for like a swim pass or something, right? And it's like, all right, it doesn't fit because it's not 30 days, it's $100, and we do it to help, and how much do we want to tie that up in the letter of the law of the policy? And I know it's hard to say that you won't do for one, but you will do for the other, and vice versa. It's tricky.
At no point in my 7 years on council have I seen councils that I sat with be completely black and white on these kinds of things. So that's not the moment. I think, do you know what I mean? Like we're allowing other things to happen. So this to me is within it-ish. And so this to me, this one I support. That's justify it.
I do too, but I just want to say, personally, I've told you councillors before, I'm going to be black and white on the November 1st thing. This one isn't that issue, so
Agreed.
Awesome. I do feel very black and white about it.
I hear you.
Okay, all right. How many can support this around the table? All right, so supported. Thank you. So,
Next.
well, whichever you supported it.
These kind of donations, like, how am I going to word this? Never mind, I'll come back to it. I'll think about it.
Sounds good. The next one is Fred is our main drop-in. Now this one fits the criteria. So, your talk.
So this is status quo, right? It's what they've asked for before. And what we've
They're
given.
not asking for more. They're asking for
Yeah, so that's status quo.
which is as per contract.
But, sorry, my question was, didn't we talk about the concern from Sergeant Wright and peace officer looking at the other communities? Is this something that we should be doing at all?
In that
The discussion that
location.
we had, does this make our street problem better or worse?
Yeah.
Remember?
So yeah, you're perfectly right. There was that conversation, and we never came to a.
But now we should come to some conclusion on that.
Jeff, can you refresh my memory, our rent agreement that we have with Freddy's? Does it contemplate, because was it just for the first year? I just don't remember the detail of what it looked like next year.
Yeah, so it said specifically under the obligations of Freddy's, of Pam, that she had to apply by the November 1st, I think it's that October 31st deadline, for the future year's funding. That was her obligation. That it wasn't guaranteed. It had to be, it had to have been applied for each year. Yeah.
All right. So, Councillor Grainger brought forward a point of just a little bit of septet kind of story and how to deal with that in comparison to other programs.
And I just, again, just my opinion here, and do what you will. I understand the concerns about the contribution to the urbanization of downtown. I don't want to suggest that I'm dismissing that. But where we sit tonight without an alternative or a different way to provide that service, or even a recommendation on how to differently provide that service to get the same societal impact out of it, it may be difficult to pull the rug out. But I do think you have, you're going to have actually a motion for that, put that in there. It might be on the next one, but you talked to your planning session about having meetings to discuss this in January, looking at this with the different merchants, the different stakeholders, and having that discussion. And I think that's good. I think that's right. You should do that. But I know I'm not sitting here with an alternative to providing. If you consider that service as a needed service, I don't have a plan B there.
There is no location, no alternative location to go in.
I'm going to make the same comment. I'm wondering, is there a way to, something like that that we don't lock into the whole 5,200, because I think that January meeting is important, and we may get some great ideas, better ideas than we have, alternatives to what we're doing now, and I would hate to dampen potentially positive effect of the January meeting. I said, oh yeah, we've already committed 5,200 as of now. Are we cementing it into it like that? Or is it just we're putting the dollar amount as a placeholder and we'll figure out what to best do with it for the moment?
Councillor, can we first
I was going to say, this isn't for January 1st that she needs this, correct?
But she needed to apply as
Right,
well.
which is fine, but do we have, so I'm saying, do we have to make a decision on her application at this point?
Just for budget purposes would be helpful to me.
Which I think we could put it as a placeholder then.
Yeah,
But I don't think that we should give the, I don't know when we give the funding, probably not till January. I don't know.
It won't be till next year.
Okay, well then.
Yeah. And the reason I brought this up is because we had a discussion that's salient to this eventual decision in terms of do we continue to support this program in this fashion or not. And clearly we had some advice that are we making a bad situation worse? I hear that, but I'm also torn because, the generous person in me says that it's somebody needs to look after these people, and it kind of pulls on my heartstrings that way, and I'm kind of torn, but
I would hope once you get the building built, your $25 million, that a lot of that problem will go up there. So I'm with Jeff. I don't see any alternative right now.
Yeah. Personally, I feel to have it in a budget is the right place at this point. Whatever comes next from that January conversation, Pam will be there. We'll be able to together review things if they need to be reviewed. I really honestly think at this time, let's have a little bit of goodwill.
And Jeff, the 5,200, either like in previous years when it's approved, on January 2nd, do we give her a check for 5,200, or is it month by month?
Yeah, she's got to invoice us.
Yeah. And it's been month by month.
We were doing it a few months at a time here,
Okay.
but yeah, and if that's your direction, we can just hold on that.
Yeah.
Councillor Kenny.
So she had also asked for fee waivers on top of the 5,200.
Oh, yeah, I can speak to that, Mayor. And I appreciate she included it. I didn't even think about it. Pam's done some activities at the end of every summer. One year it was a pool. Last year we let her and all those folks that access their services use the driving range. For example, just as something fun, and the school bussed them up there and they spent some time at the driving range. And that's just something that we do internally, and I think it's a fun activity. So if it would be great to know if you support that as well as a group, but it's usually very minimal in its cost and impact.
So Mayor, I guess my question is, so are we going to make a motion to approve this now, or are we waiting for that meeting in January? I just don't quite understand.
I believe that what we need to do is approve it now. Put it in a budget. The budget, it's only the mill rate is in May. So we have time to kind of adjust whatever that is that we need to adjust. But we won't know until the meeting in January. But it'll be in the budget.
But by approving this today, it would allow Pam to go ahead and budget for the next year, correct? Because this isn't just a placeholder. This is approving. Am I wrong?
That's what I don't know.
Well, I'm just trying to get this crystal clear. I don't understand. Are we approving this to be put into the budget to be discussed at the next meeting in January? Or are we approving this program so that Pam can go ahead and budget, and plan next year? I understand what the direction is here.
So from what I understand, maybe what Councillor Burton was trying to say is that we approve it now to be in the budget because Jeff needs to plug in something. Maybe you can put it with revision to be done after the January meeting. if that is something that we need to put as a condition. What, Councillor Burton, how would you like us to?
But I think it's
No, I understand what you're saying.
No,
She
no.
wants to know
Well,
what is
anyone,
going to be there.
Yeah, anyone who's running a program needs
Right.
to know, in January, do I have money to run a program? I mean, if we don't have a date yet to when that big meeting is that we've talked about, so, but she needs to know, does she have money to feed people in January? So that's the part I don't understand.
You're totally correct with your assertion. If we put in a budget, she should be able to access it. On the other hand, how do we kind of deal with your concerns?
Could we approve January and February for her program? So if we divide 52 by 6, approve that, and then put the rest just in the budget, but we don't approve it for her use. It gives us a month.
Well, what about 6 months leeway, because we can't, or 3 months at least?
Well, the longer it gets, the less comfortable I am, because I don't want to
Yes.
diminish the value of that meeting. If we go in there thinking, well, it's already this, so why are we
Yes.
having the meeting?
No, I totally hear you. This is why we need to find a compromise. Jeff, do you have one to offer?
Well, I was just saying, like, it would not be difficult to stipulate that we're just going monthly billing
Okay.
up to 1/12 per month of the total.
Well, I would even go, if we want to go 3 months, I could live that, and beyond that.
Yeah, well, 3 months is, because, I mean, we need to make changes.
But I think it's imperative that we make sure that Pam's in the loop and understands.
Totally agree.
But we will be approved 3 months.
Well, and that,
Why?
and why, like, and that she's invited to this meeting, like, this meeting is for the betterment of our communities, and so we're gonna talk to Blood Tribe, and, like, it's a big
And
meeting.
we've allocated the rest of the budget, we're just not
It's
sure
there.
what we're doing.
And I think it's imperative, I think that the communication is clear. Thank you.
I appreciate the concern. That's a valid point.
So we're going to put the 5,200 in a letter to her explaining that
Okay.
we're only good
Jeff?
for 3 months.
Jeff, the motion then should say that
I got
we
it.
approve. Go ahead.
Want to do a formal motion on this one?
Well, I don't
Are
know.
we?
Should we?
Might be a good thing to do, yeah.
That's what I think.
General discussion, please will make the motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna be slow with this because I gotta get the right wording in. So I make a motion, the town of Cardston support Freddy's on in for the next 3 months. Yeah, January, February, March of 2020.
Based on the 2025 budget.
Yeah,
Yes, that's what it is.
I get it, but I'm trying to think of how do I bring that meeting into it? Sure. $435 a month allocated. And the waivers. And that a letter be sent to Pam in regards to the community meeting in January we will be having to discuss budgets and spending in this area.
Financial implications.
Which you've done, financial allocations. Is that clear?
It's mud, yes. Mud.
Are you comfortable with that? Like,
I think
I
it's
said the
okay.
money, I said making sure we send it so that she's in the loop and then doesn't understand. Because we don't want a miscommunication here that we're cutting this, we just are trying to do what's better for the community. And we don't know what that looks like. Okay.
Jen, can you read that back? Type it out.
Oh, perfect.
Motion to support Freddy's on Main drop-in for 3 months, from January to March, at $140 per month. 435.
Yeah. Yes, you don't want to make it short.
Clearly that's what I said. Not. You're good, son.
right, move on. Friends of Remington Carriage Museum.
Mayor, can I quickly disregard my comment on the eligibility? It was a copy-paste from the school one. I don't have any concern about the Friends being provincially or federally funded. That's not an issue.
On that one?
Yeah, that one was just I copied and pasted the school.
Okay, fine. All right. So, they're looking, in the past, gave them $1,000 every year, pretty well. And I think what they're looking is just about 5 times the value. So, why is a good question. They wanted to help them with their activities. I suppose it's because they don't have as much truck. And therefore they are needing more money from outside sources, meaning taxpayer dollars. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I sit on their board, and I guess the request for these funds are primarily to support and promote the Remington Days celebrations in August, and particularly the chuck wagon races. And 2 things. Certainly the group is appreciative of the town's support. Their expenses, particularly insurance, they had not been purchasing event insurance. This was pointed out as a grave error, and the new board said, well, yeah. And the new board, of which I'm a member, we said, well, we cannot not hold this event without event insurance. And that's like $2,000, $2,500 worth there. And so in order to put the event on, make the event bigger and better, and it's certainly, I guess we missed the year of COVID, and people really missed those mini chuck wagon races. It gets a really good draw. We're expanding. And we've got the sheepdog demonstration, for example. People really, really enjoy it, and the attendance is growing. And so the board felt, given the increased costs, we said we lost money. We certainly didn't make any money on Remington Days. So, and our fundraising capabilities are kind of maxed out in terms of at least what we've done in the past. So we thought, because it's a benefit to the community, as Mark's letter indicated, it's the old story that we heard earlier tonight. Bringing people into town is a good thing for the town economically, and this is a really nice event to have. And so the board felt it would be appropriate to ask for a little more for all of those reasons.
Thank you.
So I agree that the insurance have to have related livestock things. Have they approached, so I'm not very familiar with our chamber, how it raises money and things, but have they asked the chamber for contributions, do you know?
No. Given the
Does the chamber
state
have
of
money,
chamber,
or?
I think we stayed away from it.
Can I ask you something? This is the Friends of the Remington, so it's not directly linked to the Remington, but kind of.
I can address that.
But it's not the point. I'm wondering, are you a non-profit organization? Are you able to access funding through the Tourism and Sports Ministry?
I don't know.
I think there are some, I think you could be surprised, there is some money there somewhere. And I think if you were to contact our MLA, it's too bad we did not have that question on mine yesterday, it was there. But I think maybe it would be worthwhile to kind of make some contact to try to understand how to apply for something that would increase tourism through the chalk wagon race, which is something really worthwhile having in our town. I've seen them. It's a wonderful event. It's cute. It's
Sure,
nice.
I can address that. I know that we've applied for, not always got them, but, you know, some grants. This, based on my experience here at the council, you know, I've said, well, we need to work harder at some grants because, you know, the bank account often shrinks and it's a struggle to get more. But if I could maybe just quickly explain the difference between Friends of the Remington Society.
No, we understand the difference.
Yeah.
We understand the difference. What we figure out is, if you're a non-profit, do you have you tried to apply for something?
Yes, we have.
Look for those new grants, because there are some new grants that are worth looking at.
Well, it's a priority of the board, and yes, we are going to work hard.
Right.
What that kind of asks is, I think we could do this condition that they actually attempt to get grants. This gets to be too easy just to come to the town for $5,000 and see what's the cheaper alternatives. You know. So if they've done that, if they will look for grants, we can do this conditioning at least that far, I think.
Yeah, we are currently applying for some grants that we
Okay.
haven't applied for.
So, how would it look like then if we were to donate $1,000 as we did in the past, so that's a firm, but the rest unconditional?
Conditional on what?
On you applying for grants?
Well, we are applying for grants.
So look, we need to see if the grants are going to be approved. If they get approved for 5 or 10,000, we don't need to give them any money. Not personally. That's what I'm looking at.
Councillor Brown.
So just two questions. First question is, are you aware that they've gone to the county?
Yes.
So the county's received this thing.
Oh, I don't know what I can't certainly say what they requested. I don't know.
Because I would love to see us put in 25 and the county put in 25 or something like that. I'm all about supporting them. I've volunteered for the mini shacks for a whole shack even, importance of it. But I do think, I mean, this goes back to the thing we talked about 1,400 times in regards to us in the county. But I would love to see us both making money to you don't know.
No, I don't know the number. I know that the county has been approached the same way that the president approached with this. I guess, given how the event is growing, how exciting it is, how well done it is, that the group feels that it's really a worthwhile investment. And I would like to see us, get as close to that 5,000 as not to 5,000.
Should they not just increase the ticket prices so the stakeholders are actually paying for this instead of...
Well, I think we've looked at that, and then I guess the thing is, at some point, when are you going to start turning people away because they think it's too expensive for a free ticket?
And I will say, my husband and I worked at the gates this last year, and the majority of the people that were coming were from out of town. And that was not the problem. And I asked everyone who came through the gates that I didn't know where you were from and what, have you been to this before? And it was yes, we come every year, all the things. So I am all about supporting this. I just don't want this to be a yearly, here's $5,000, here's $5,000. So I would like to make a motion that we support $5,000 to go to the Friends of the Remington Carriage Museum.
Further questions? I would speak a little bit of all what has been said here. We have looked at the insurance. Insurance is a miserable, terrible ticket item, and we know that needs to cover the helped is possibly if they have not increased their budget with that amount of insurance increase. That's for sure. So the difficulty for me that I have is trying to understand. It's not so much $5,000, but it's trying to understand the type of grants that they're trying to raise. Have they been applied for already, or are they to be applied from here on?
The answer is both.
Okay, so you have applied for as a society, you have not received the answer to the request.
And we don't want to jeopardize. The request is based around not jeopardizing our ability to hold the event.
So for you, essentially, that money would go to sponsor the Chuck Wagon event, essentially?
Yeah,
Or what else?
it's for basically promotion and to help defray the costs of putting the event on. That's what the funds are.
Yeah, because without the budget,
It's not for anything else.
without the budget on the program, how to understand when a grant comes, they come with a detailed budget, right? Here we're giving money, we have no sense of the budget.
We thought it was half of it was insurance.
Right, so that we know. So this is why I know $1,000 last year, and the year before was just to help with that. But all of a sudden you have $2,500 more.
At least, yes.
So
And the $1,000 was just a historical number that had been, the previous board did that. The new board looked at the numbers, particularly after, the dust settled with last summer's event. And, we're not covering our costs, and the request is specifically for the Remington days. I mean,
okay.
Jeff, is that consistent with what the president said to you?
Sorry, I missed the very end of that. We were just talking about something else here. But
The request, the $5,000, is specifically to help cover the costs of putting on the Minchucks, the Friends of the Remington.
we didn't get deep into the exact uses of it.
No.
Just that it was looking like you were going to be short 5 from where you passed.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a shortage in your budget.
Yes.
Okay. So no,
I would would it be fair to ask that group that next year they bring a report of their grant seeking activities?
Absolutely. Like a summary of, sure.
Not that it's condition or anything, but just go to them and say, hey, we want to report next year.
Yeah, we can do that, and if that's a condition of the motion, but
I'm not saying the condition, just
I think $5,000 is a chunk of money, right? So it should be a complete.
No, I was just going to say, so I have no problem with that, but I didn't put it into the motion. And so, I mean,
It's not the case for it.
And it's also,
I'll support the motion.
and it's understood that this is 1 year at a time.
that's my point.
Absolutely, we
This isn't
understand that.
Okay.
I said that at
So
one of the meetings.
maybe what you could add in your motion is to specify 2025.
Or 2025.
So they understand it's not.
Okay, so that will make it easier. Okay, ready to vote? All in favor? And you can thank them, Councillor Grainger, for all their effort to bring people to our town. We appreciate that. It is a nice event. We've been there too and helped a lot with that in the past.
It's a really fun thing to do.
So, all right, let's look at the next application. Then, so that is the museum. So, here is a request for another $2,000 on top of the $8,000 that they get every year. Well, last year. So here again, I have a historical building that is needs maintenance, and that is something that is meaningful in our town. The difficulty is everybody is getting short of money. So your input will be appreciated. Yes, if you want.
The costs have gone up, insurance has gone up again. We do and have applied for grants, the board and their board.
And they're very aggressive in doing that.
And building cost to keep the building running, use more of it and higher. And so I guess the town has always been supportive, and I think certainly the museum board appreciates all that. It's just, costs have gone up, and our fundraising is limited and kind of taxed out.
Councillor Kennedy.
I don't know, that's probably an answer to does the town own that building?
No,
They
we
do
sold
not.
them for over a few years ago.
Okay. And what kind of traffic do they get? Like, is there updated numbers through the summer? Like,
No, there's numbers, I don't have them, though, there are numbers.
That is a society that is very, very well run,
okay.
if I can say that. They have a president that is been re-elected to take the position of president. Also, his health is not good, and he's willing to do it. He's very aggressive in applying for all the grants that I can to run that society, and they were really thrilling in their budgets, and now they are pretty close to making meets. So, Councillor Kennedy.
I was just going to finish that. Two things. Do they live and die by our $10,000?
For you.
One, that's the first question. The second question, do us as a council feel that it's a facility that we need? I'm not saying don't. I just want to.
Councillor Burton.
I think it's important to have things like that. So two questions. One, do you know, I guess, do you have any kind of budget for
yes.
They
for
do
the building itself? You know what I mean? Like, in other words, like a capital
Expenditure.
reserve, do they have anything like that, or is
We
it
don't have
just-
any reserves. We try to look forward into the following year, recognizing what's coming down around our some days and
And the other question, did they ever get the debit machine? Because I know.
yes,
Because they were missing some revenue.
that's correct.
Councillor.
Okay, so first question, Councillor, is, so we typically give them $8,000 a year, so now they're asking for $2,000 more. Is it important in the community? Does it have a good stream of people coming in? I would think so.
I don't know. That's why I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I mean, typically we do get a review from them by the, because most of it sits on the table. So I would say yes. Previously, I know in other years on our term of council, they have asked us for things, and we have held the line of saying, this is how much, we cannot give you more, because they were struggling with their utilities one year, and we held the line and said,
Insurance and utilities.
yeah, so.
When does it stop, right? I
Well-
guess insurance is never going to stop going up, right?
Yeah, I would support the $8,000 that we give them. I do support it. I do think it's important in our community. The other 2,000, I don't know.
If I could say, if you don't give them the 2,000, it's going to hurt them. They have to pay for insurance. What else in their budget would go? And their budget is pretty bare bones as it is. And we don't even have any paid staff. And we do all the janitorial work ourselves. And it's all by the board and its volunteers.
The difficulty with that building is because it's listed as historical. It's horribly expensive to maintain. It's a designation that is costing them an arm and a leg.
Well, we look at that every year, well, we gotta now do this because it's kind of falling down around their ears.
In McLeod, they turned that around and used historical to their advantage to get federal funding.
Right, and those are grants that are applying for quite consistently. Now, what I do not know is if under the former president, if the grant had been applied for. That is what I do not know. But I know that when Mr. Jensen was there and took over years back, Councillor Cope, remember that, he did a 180 turnaround and allowed that society to be viable. So I have almost the feeling that there is a year of grants that was not.
Because Blaine wasn't there a year ago.
Right.
And if I can say, I know Blaine well enough to know that if he didn't need it, he wouldn't be asking
No,
for it. It's all justified.
it's exactly, yeah, I would agree with that judgment. The problem is 10,000 on the land.
The problem is, and I've said all along, it's a beautiful building that allows you museum. There's just not space for it. I was on the board for a number of years, and I know the prices are going up and up and up. It chokes me a little bit because the costs are raising so fast here, but I'm a history guy, so I would support the $10,000.
And that's support the Cardston.
I like the motion that we,
The card homes in there.
we give the the Cardston District Historical Society $10,000 for 2025. I don't want to keep that continuing.
That's fair.
Are in favor? Okay, all right.
I guess let's do that, though. Like, it's never going to stop, right?
No.
That's just
What?
it.
But it doesn't stop the ice rink.
No.
Councillor, can we? What needs to happen, all those societies need to aggressively go after grants. There are some amount, there is a certain amount of grants that are accessible for non-profit society, museums, theaters, all that stuff. They have to do their homework, and that is where we might need to help them, make sure they don't miss the deadline. Yeah.
I get that, but maybe they got to be getting grants. It falls back onto the town, onto the taxpayer, right?
And you have a
12 and
perfectly
15 and 18.
You
I
have
get
a-
it.
you have a perfectly right view of the picture. It's never going to go down unless they find a way to raise money. The thing is, a museum is there to preserve the history of the place. It's hard to not have your history song.
So is that not a better volunteer?
I don't know.
We have our MLA
But as the council rep, I'll go back to them and
Okay,
say.
Councillor Brown has his hand up.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, the thing with this is that, yes, it's going to continue. Yes, it's going to keep going up. But the problem is, but our problem, I would say, is because it is run by volunteers. They don't have a full-time grant person to be watching for it. So, right, this is with half of these, right? They just don't have that full-time employee that can be looking at this because they're good-hearted volunteers.
Okay, so here's a question for Jeff, Councillor Grainger. How does a town help a society that has their own building with maybe flagging grants for them?
I mean, if council wants to tax and pay for the staff resources to track all that, then you can. But I don't have the resources to be looking at every single special interest group in the whole region and looking at how they can be funded. I'm not interested in that at all, unless council wants to support that with staffing resources.
All right.
Yeah.
Right, so it's or we use the town resources and it costs us, or we help them when they need and let them do their homework.
This year I would say more than ever, because you're going to have further delegations over the next couple of meetings. Our
we not finished then?
We're not.
Councillor and Councillor.
Two things. One, I will, as the council rep on their board, I will go back and say, yes, we got the request was approved for this year, but there's a concern that maybe we could be doing more, and we got to find a way to maybe tap into some of these things. Also, my second to last point is that we applied for a grant to get a staff person to the province, and we were turned down. So the board, this board, with Blaine's leadership, years ago, like they are thinking and trying. Diane Barnes is on the board. We've got some good people in the community that are doing their darndest, but it's not easy out there.
So just in general, we could make it known to the community, or we could make it part of our policy that they're applying for grants or not applying for grants is one of the factors we take into consideration in the future. It won't be permanent. It'll go on a scale of whether they get money or how much.
I really would appreciate if the budget presented with their request, because here we have 10,000, here we have 5,000, here we have...
You could do all of this. You could say, policy, we could change it. You bring a budget and show us how much insurance is. And that applying for grants, excuse me, is one of the factors that will weigh in the scale.
Yeah, I think it should be.
Mayor, I remind council that, and have they given the request for the requisition yet, Jen? Yeah. Well, this is it.
Yeah.
Well, usually what they do,
Accept requisitions.
anyway, they have a budget.
Yeah.
No, I know that.
And then they presented the budget with the request in the past. Okay, well, I'll get that first.
Typically, do we allocate in our budget for this kind of thing? Remind me. Because I'm looking for the number. Yeah, a donation. Oh. Yeah.
We don't have a donation ceiling right now.
Clearly we need to.
Well, by the sounds of it, it's not going to stop, so.
But that's...
Well, I'm saying that in a really nice way, but like...
No, but that's literally my point, Council, is that if as a budget, if I know I have $5,000, I only have $5,000 to give out. I mean, we've talked about this. That's been the point of setting our dates. Yeah, that's where we started. So I'm just feeling like a little bit drowning here in just throwing out money all over the place when I don't have a number. Like, where's our bottom? Like, there's got to be a...
I'm glad you asked that, Councillor.
Well, I'm amazed you have there.
You just have this chicken and egg, Councillor, because the point of the timing of this was so that you could use it when you structured your budget. Right, that's why we did it. If you wanted to have the safety net of that, then don't ask for donations until February next year when your budget's set, and then you have a hard fast number. But so you have this chicken and egg, right? It just makes it tricky.
But I'm careful what you say. I'm irritated by it. We could just spend and spend and spend and bless our hearts and bless their hearts, and do you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
But I just feel like just tonight we've already approved. Do you know what I mean? It's like and you're telling me we have more, and we're at November, so I'm just having a little nervousness of, I feel like this council needs to decide in a year, and I'm not talking waivers. Like, to me, that's somehow different. I'm talking cash. When we're handing out cash, we need to come up with this much we're comfortable with, and whether it's twice a year we're handing them out, because we've talked about that, our intake, and like SPSF does, and yes, I understand we did it so that we would have it ahead for the budget, and I still agree with that, but I think this council needs to come up with that number. What is that number that we're comfortable with? Because it's making me so nervous right now.
That number is at this point adjustable, and Jeff works magic around our adjustable, stretchable budget. And what goes up has to find an equivalent go up somewhere else in the revenues. Expenses and revenues are always in a need to balance. And yes, it can be taxes, or it can be cutting out something that we're buying, or it can be whatever. Councillor,
I guess do we as a council, I know we probably won't be like in our last year, but do we get to a point where we have a handful and we have a budget and we start picking? We're going to have 10 applications and we got to pick only 5 of them every year.
So,
which is something I don't love to do.
But there are some towns that prioritize according to their own vision of what they want to accomplish within their term. And so if it aligns with the vision, they're supported. Our vision is to increase tourism, economic development, then you support it because that's what those events do.
Cool.
Like the truck wagon, right? And you support that. A society like this, a museum, does that bring people? Yeah, a certain amount. Does that bring a lot? Well, I don't think so. Does it serve a purpose in a society? It does.
Councillor Brown, that's a very good point you're making. And I think having them all come in at once highlights that, right? Because if we just get one out of the blue, oh yeah, why not? There's still it's in in space, we don't know where it is. At least this way we can say, okay, these are the guys that made it by the date. Those are the ones you have to consider. And I don't know what you're talking about more coming in.
They're not donations per se, but they're your requisitions and community groups that you support. You have 2 coming in
So they are requisitions.
Considerably more. Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, of the ones that aren't requisitions, like these, I think it's very helpful whether we do chicken or we do egg, to at least have them all at once. Right? And we say, okay, here's our total.
What we know is that the price stuff's not getting cheaper. And we just have to make a decision.
So right now, do you know how much you have?
I can have you probably just at 18,000, which we probably would. And he just said we normally have 2 or 3. But I guess the historical society is always better. So 2 of them. Okay, so we're probably at like 10. Yeah. Close to 10.
So maybe that is a magic number that we have to. That is maybe the magic number we have to look at and say to ourselves, we will allocate $10,000 or $12,000 in a budget, cash for donations, and that's it. When we spend it.
Another question: can we ask? This is I don't know if that will tell you, but can you ask other municipalities what kind of like what do they have a budget for this kind of stuff? Like would they donation out? Like, donation policy? Like,
if you ask the counties, for them it's per request. You come to the county and they
I'm talking like
value
the town's budget. Like what do they have?
Town arrangement.
Yeah. Like what is there? 20,000? Is it 10,000? Is it 0?
I remember the City of Whitehorse did exactly what Councillor Brown was saying. They had a set maximum limit, and they entertained, they had a cutoff date, and they entertained those, and most often, and the number of $50,000 sticks in my head. They had more applications by the deadline than the $50,000, and then they had to decide what had merit, what didn't have merit, what their priorities were, and the $50,000 was always gone.
Okay.
We have one more, but we need to make a motion to extend, so we're already at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, you may as well. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to extend, and then do I have to say it?
You better go tell them 9.
favor?
So you can do 5 p.m.
Okay.
We have one more to do. We have one more to do.
Well, what we've decided.
We've already voted on it. Push it to $10,000.
I'm aware of that. I'm saying for the next one. Let's finish. Guys, I'm simply saying on the Cardston High School, 1,500. I'm saying let's finish this before we go.
All right. It's been, Councillor, postpone your motion. Councillor Burton?
So I would support this, and I'm prepared to make a motion. And because it's not cash, it's the use of a facility.
Yeah.
I don't think they do have a good alternative facility, so not competing with the province or anything. So I would move that we allow the junior high theater.
No, it's a Cardston High School drama.
Cardston High School drama group to have use of our facility subject to review.
As in the past. All in favor? Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
In the break.
All in favor? Thank you. 5
We've
minutes.
got a couple here we can defer until next meeting.
I'm enjoying my love, actually.
It's so much. It's just astronomical to me. Like there has to be a point where we stop asking.
I wasn't trying to be like a jerk in my background, but like with the Historical Society, 3 years ago they were 4,200.
I know.
And now they're 8, and now
I
they're
know.
10.
I know.
And it's,
The budget was what would give us comfort. If I could look at the budget.
I agree.
But then insurance is triple.
much, so is the town.
Yeah.
So I get it.
That's what I would like to see.
Everyone's has.
Oh, okay, so the insurance is.
I'll
get Blaine to send it to her.
I really feel that we
Trust
need,
me, I'm just saying in
yeah.
general, right? Yeah. Easier to say here.
I really think anybody should read, and I spoke with Steph about that, and we were going to have administration kind of come up with a policy or something like that, that would include that need for when we try to make a donation, includes the budget or something like this, to give us a sense where we
Mayor, you guys have worked over that donation policy a ton. You didn't leave something out of that donation.
But it is inside there, isn't it?
I don't think so.
But I thought we should maybe review.
Good news, guys, this is our last budget, so.
Right? Last one.
Mine too. Wow.
Well,
People have
well,
been
no, I'm just saying, this is our last budget. Doesn't matter who runs again, there's only us. The newspaper, you should have been here at 5 o'clock, man. We've been hopping, man. Things have been said. You need to go back and watch it and be like,
I always said, we, for the money, if we go to have someone come here and go over there, like friends of the church. How much is that? We don't know what that means. Administration and looking at the time, we're not going to be able to cover all what we need to. So Jeff just told me that 5D, E, F, G could be deferred to the next meeting in 2 weeks. But we need a motion to defer.
Aren't some of those, though, that we just want additional readings, we've already looked at? Like, we can do that in
First reading.
So yeah, like if you just want to do a first reading, that's fine.
I agree. Let's get her done.
Okay, all right. We want to do 5D is
You can be just as quick on C.
Yeah.
on C. Yeah. The utilities, we discussed it enough long and wide.
It's an I at the end of that, by the way. It doesn't translate to typing mode, but it's 50 I.
Yeah, so if you want to do first reading on this one, we could, on 5C. Go ahead.
I make a motion, sorry, my computer's not bringing it up, but I make a motion for bylaw 1582I, utility rates amendment draft. First reading.
Questions? Councillor?
Okay, so this is the rates we talked about? And
Yes,
correct.
yes.
And this is based on what percent? Or
It
The
was
spreadsheet, it was about
2.9
for residential,
Yeah.
and institutional was a little over 5.
Okay, and so if I'm not in favor of that, am I voting against that?
Yes. So, all in favor? Okay, against?
And the only reason I'm voting against is I had talked about, I don't need a lecture on utility asset management and everything like that, but I've just been in favor of not touching residential, and that's the only reason I'm voting against it.
It's fair enough. 5D, snow removal bylaw, Councillor Burton.
I'm on the first reading of bylaw 1719, snow removal. And it's an amendment, though, isn't it?
Well, we're redoing it.
Oh, we're redoing it.
Yeah, we're just doing
You
a
have to
new
rescind the
one.
old one?
It'll be in the text of this
okay.
new one.
That's my motion.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. So, yeah, so we could defer the next 3. So I need a motion to defer them to the next council.
Make a motion that we defer 5 bylaw and policy E, F, and G till the next meeting.
Thank you.
One comment. Just for next time, Jeff, on the emergencies money one, B, it says as soon as reasonably possible, this expenditure will be ratified. Maybe shall be would be better language there.
Good, thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. All right, so let's go on to 6. 6.8 is the appointment of an auditor. So Jeff, you, in talking with you said that there was really not very much application for an auditor. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we put out to firms locally in the region in Lethbridge, and we're recommending to reappoint, but under the Act you appoint an auditor for a 3-year term, and we're recommending Mercer Wild Group for the next 3 years.
Thank you.
I move that we appoint Mercer Wild town's auditors for the next 3 fiscal years.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And sorry, Mercer Wild, refresh my memory, they were the previous ones?
They're your current one, yes. Correct.
Thank you. And that's all in favor? Thank you. All right. So 6B, I'll just follow up. So under Ryan Dick, if you remember, we were starting to look at the need to look at land that could be available for future requests of groups or societies or schools or whatever it may be that needs a piece of land in town. When the land is becoming prime for us and we don't have of that in the reserve, because the way the reserves were created, we never could have big enough a parcel to be meaningful. So very often we took the money in lieu of, because what we could catch, not significant.
And I had recommended that we discuss this with the county. The entities of park, schools, and I had drawn to our attention that this group, it's so easy for them to raise that money and very difficult for us to raise that money. You look at a group like a school, if our population in town is roughly the same as the county, arguably it would be used for communities equally. Jeff told us there isn't a formula for it.
What
Well, I think we need to have some discussion with the county.
Like an ICF meeting?
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, that's appropriate.
Yeah, you have a couple of ICF items anyway, we need to get that meeting going.
Yeah, because there's no formal system for we only have these once a year, things like that, ad hoc, right?
Yep.
Well, that's my recommendation, is that we sit down with the county.
Okay. So Jeff, maybe you can
The other
discussion.
the other question I had for council on this is, do we want to, particularly let's look at Franklin School, because that one's in front of us now, and they've identified a parcel they like. Do you want us to administratively start the process for designating that and then bringing it to council? Or what is the best way to go about that?
You have to zone.
Yeah, we would change it MR or MSR, whichever one. So we have to start preparing the subdivision rezoning.
Personally, I would suggest that we direct administration to move along with the process, because it will need to happen no matter which way we look at it.
Sorry, Jeff, just again, refresh my memory. Can we not just sell it to them, or do we have to give it to them?
So they used to do, like, Westman owns their land, be simple, they own the title to their lands, but now they are to be on school reserves, and the reason is that they're no longer viable or needed, then the municipality has mechanisms to get it back.
It's residual.
Okay, so you're saying we have to rezone it, identify it as a school reserve?
That's right.
And then, are they getting that land for free, or are we selling it?
They're getting it for free.
Because that's the legislation, right? Wow.
Yeah.
Service too.
Well, and I want to qualify something on there,
That is,
as far as cost for servicing, we as a municipality are obligated to help so far as we have the ability to do so. So we don't have to become indebted, for example, to service a property. It's a subtlety under the legislation, but we need to help as much as we can, in my opinion. And again, I'm biased here, obviously, but the use of the county participating on servicing costs while using their MR is very appropriate.
Yeah, so what I would recommend there is that if we're deciding that piece of the junior high or whatever is the piece, then we should have the market value of that piece as part of our contribution, and then that's servicing it. And that's the bundle that we take to the county, so that when we think it's this total, we look to you
Yeah.
for half of where the discussion is.
I appreciate that insight. Thank you, Councillor. All right, we good on that one? The next one, 6B2, the Blood Tribe Department of Health. We had information given to us as for the rest of the issues will be discussed later date. So, there's not very much on the 7A. Let's go on the correspondence. The Remington Carriage Museum letter, thanks for Councillor Brown and Councillor Grainger. Support, thank you very much to both of you. Beyond Care, Old Man River Regional Service Commission, fee update. Jeff, I understand it's going up, but I couldn't see by how much.
I'm waiting here for it too. Yeah, they'll send us an invoice.
Yeah, I have no doubt I will. Lance Whipper, Old Man River Regional Service Commission, new initiative. I'm not so sure what to make of it.
Just working between the 911 systems and our GIS. This is particularly important for the counties.
It's to be able to get better links, communication, correct? Okay. So, 9D, Paragrandum, Alberta Municipality, lobby for support. I don't know what you think of it. Go ahead, Councillor.
At some point, I have a question back on the utility rate, just for my understanding, so I can think about it.
Okay, all right, I will make it. Okay, carry on. About that. Oh, are you addressing 9D? The correspondence?
No, I want to go back to the policy on the utility.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So Jeff, when I look at this, two questions. One, we have some that have no meter.
In town, we don't have any anymore.
Everybody has a meter.
Except the access point.
Well, okay, so that, residentially, we don't have any. Sorry, let me put it that way.
So why do we have a no meter category?
We will occasionally get a new property that doesn't get it installed in a timely
I see,
manner.
okay, but it's not a permanent, long-term.
No.
Okay, and then second question, am I reading it right that we have two adjoining communities? We have the Blood Reserve and we have the county.
Yep.
And it looks like their rates are different. Why would they be different? Why would we treat everybody who's not in town the same?
Historically,
And the
very
reason,
different.
it's a $400,000 reason, Councillor. So back in 2003, the Blood Tribe gave $400,000 to the town when they connected to the water system in order to keep the same rate as the town. That was in
perpetuity, or?
Yeah, and you know how good that agreement is, by the way.
Yeah.
So as part of that agreement was a capital contribution for the same rate.
So I could not like it, but that
That's right.
explains why it's
Yeah,
not.
you're welcome to not like it.
Yes, that's the reason. We try to get through the ICF to get the county to give the equivalent historically into the system, but they did not want that agreement.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
All right. So this concludes the